Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun
Lies.
Show, and welcome back to another Appendix N book review. Tonight we're listening. We're going to review Paul Anderson's Three Hearts and Three Lions. This was recommended by Tanner, and of course the Dungeon Master's Guide of Days Gone By, the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide, the greatest Dungeon Master's Guide of all. How you guys doing?
What?
He's asking how you're doing.
I said, how are you doing? Low energy, huh? Okay.
Did you even
It's less
finish it?
that it's less that I suggested it, and more that for the last few weeks you've pretty much just let me have my rule of the roost to pick stuff.
No. You can find things.
So the same thing, but with a different wording.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to look for it. That's the important part.
Ah, now
He's,
he explains.
he's delegating.
Justin's number one virtue is laziness. So
I worked very
It's
hard
also
at
a
it.
sin.
No, he's not lazy. He's just delegating obligations to other people.
Ah, of course.
They were delegated to me. I have every right to delegate them to another.
Speaking
Yeah,
of
he just-
delegate, it's not just that this is on the legendary Appendix N. It's also probably just because of well, not just because of alphabetical. It is the first title listed in Appendix N, like right behind Anderson Poul, Three Hearts and Three Lions, and then I think is it Broken Sword and High Crusade or High Crusade and Broken Sword, but those are the first three that are on there. Just boom.
Yeah.
If you could find High Crusade, could we do that next?
After Sign of the Unicorn, absolutely. In fact, I can do you one better. While we're talking, I can fetch you the audiobook, which is another good audiobook.
Wait, are we
Bully
doing? I
is
thought
really
we
good for-
are we doing Guns of Avalon or Sign of the Unicorn?
Sign of the Unicorn. We did Guns of Avalon a couple weeks back. If
Right.
you missed that, I'm real sorry, but
That's all good, man. It's all good.
and we're doing that because Zelazny's birthday is this month. It's,
Right.
it's in between now and then, but it's
It's the closest you could squeeze it in. It's all good.
yeah. I'm sure he's he's busy doing other stuff, so it's like you said, it's all good. And I speaking of Roger Zelazny, I got this to show off during the month. If you've ever seen it, if not, it's
I own one.
the
I
illustrated.
hate. I'm
You
so
hate what?
jealous. I'm so jealous.
Sorry, dude.
It's not hard to find. I actually got this one for $7. So
Nice.
Lucky
I
devil,
actually
I got
have
mine for
another
10.
copy. I have another copy. I may give this one away because my original copy was autographed by Roger.
Dibs.
And out, but it's what?
I yelled out dibs.
He's
I
trolling.
don't even want
And
it.
go figure, we're gonna get to trolls pretty soon. But first, Roger's like,
It was illustrated by Gray Morrow, who
Well,
we'll talk
son,
about as well.
bro.
But it's got a really great tapestry of the Amber characters, and as far as I know, these were the first images. And right here, it's got this really great image of the Trumps with all the characters. So I
this
always
is
like going.
still how I envision these characters to this day. Yeah.
Well, Shadow, bro. If you need someone that you need to pawn this off on, I am your man.
I already called dibs, bro.
Oh,
Yeah, well, you don't even like Zelazny, so fuck off.
if I can dig it up from the comic boxes, if you want a Christmas gift, I mean, I'll send it to you.
Sweet.
All right.
Hell yeah.
It's got some other
Well,
great.
what I'll do is to save you one, sending it over to Ireland. I'll probably send it on to my relatives over stateside, and they'll send it on to me.
I see. Anywho,
So before we go into the story, little bone of contention. This is not my. This kind of story is not up my alley, so to speak.
or Justin's.
No.
Not a big fan of
Well,
the Earth and Fae kind of stuff. But hey, what's up, George? I will concede that not only was the audio version, this version, very fun. Whoever whoever the guy was, I forget his name already, who did the narration that we all listened to. It was a lot of fun to listen to. Real hard to listen to at double speed because of the thick accents, but
Oh yeah.
I did enjoy it. With all that said, so
Yeah, it's a modern audio recording. It's not like an upscale of something from '92 or whatever. It's
Mm.
Blackstone audio, so pretty recent.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I'm used to the like a Gaelic brogue, but even I found the Scotsman at like 1.7 speed really hard to follow at times.
Yes, this is not built for speed listening or speed reading, which granted people probably
No.
shouldn't be speed reading, but for those
Mm.
who've not read this story and want us to, before we stop being behind the bush, so all of our three, later four main characters have very thick accents, and two
Mm.
of them have a brew, which is written phonetically. So
Which you're
when
not
you're
supposed to
reading,
do.
that's right. I was about to say, yeah. Usually, that's not a great idea, especially when it's your main characters. So, not trying to slag it too hard
okay,
here. The Hughie little dwarf guy who we'll get to, he'll talk a little bit like this, which isn't so bad when you're listening to a guy with a folksy voice doing it. But when you're reading it on the page, you kind of have to go along with what he's saying as opposed to know what he's saying.
Mm.
I have been a
Yeah.
good dwarf. I have been a good dwarf. Please do not hit me. I have been a very good dwarf.
Yeah, that was funny. That was hilarious.
Yes. Whatever. We're about to reveal what we thought of this book, but wherever we may think of it, there was some great comedy in here.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it had a lot of stuff. It was hard for me at first because I was getting different answers to when was this written.
Oh, that I can answer. So early
61.
50s, kind of. This actually came out in the 50s as a novella, much shorter. And then by 61, Anderson had put in a lot more episodes, had filled it out, and made it a full on novel. And that's the one we read in 61.
That's weird because I saw this video while this was playing about how this was written before the Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, huh?
Kinda.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that were written before the Lord of the Rings, but
Mhm.
they weren't.
And there's
Like-
absolutely a scene here that has a little good-natured fun at the Hobbit's expense. But again, we'll get into this one. Shall we begin
I
with
probably
your
mi-
thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, real quick, Justin, did you like the book?
It was okay if I ignored the obligatory, for no reason, anti other guys in World War II scenes that had nothing to do with the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, had this been written today, I might get this video flagged. Law would probably represent the other side.
Yeah, like Tindin did.
Yep.
How about you, DK?
I actually really enjoyed it. I going into it because I have a penchant for playing clerics and paladins, and this is the basis for the paladin class.
One of the big ones.
I knew it was yeah. I knew I was going to like it, but I didn't think I'd enjoy it quite as much as I did. Now there's some things I didn't like, but as a whole, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
Mhm.
And Tanner, I'm guessing you absolutely love this.
It's one of my all-time favorite books.
Okay.
It is nowhere near perfect, but it's
Hmm.
I consider it one of the gems of Appendix N.
Okay.
Like pulp is
I-
not meant to be perfect, it's
I'd argue that a lot of Edgar Rice Burroughs is perfect, but then again, there's no such thing as a perfect story.
Okay,
So
I will
I
say-
disagree. I know of one. I'm not going to tell anybody because I don't
Yeah,
want
the
anybody-
things you film are far from perfect, nor stories, bro.
we are less than 10 minutes in. Yet it was just 10 minutes now, and we've got a reference to that certain time where a certain German guy showed off his Unabomber,
Yep.
Hey,
and that's a World War II joke too.
I think he was Spanish or something.
Yeah, he
looked
was
a little
definitely
different.
some sort of Latin.
Honestly, that would probably explain it and his size.
Mm.
I don't know. He was kind of small, you ask me.
It was like this. He was doing this.
Yeah.
Going
Wow.
into this,
Well,
we
this
would've-
got demonetized quick, fast, and in a fucking hurry.
Nazis and
we've
masturbation,
never
man.
received a penny from any of the tube of views.
Yes,
Going
yeah,
into
true.
this book, I would have guessed, before I read it, I would have guessed I was going to give this at best a 4, but I could easily say going into it and having listened to it, not read it, I'd easily give it a 6.5, maybe even a 7, because it was fun, except for the ending, and we'll get into that. Um,
Mhm. I take it though, both Justin and Shadow, you enjoy this more than the Roaring Trumpet.
The
okay.
Roaring Trumpet.
The first Harold Chase story. You couldn't stand him because he was a fop, but you did like the 40 pounds of meat scene.
I do not remember this story at
Turn up,
all.
Harold!
Yeah, we've
Okay.
had a lot of very unmemorable reads in this.
Some of them are only memorable because they're bad.
Yes, yes.
With all due
Like
respect,
Facing the
guys, this was
Frost.
with all due respect, guys, that
Our
was
moon pool.
1 month back. Actually, that's fair. Yeah, 1
Yeah,
month.
but you know,
I put that shit right out of my mind.
yeah, I literally half the time I can't even remember the characters' names, but that's because I'm like twice all of your ages. So there's that,
Mm.
and to be honest, folks, we in this sort of sphere, role players and stuff, we inundate ourselves with so much fantasy and fiction compared to the average person. It's real easy to get buried under all this lore and the names, and and sometimes it just mushes together into a kind of a not quite gray sludge, more of a lavender sludge.
It's
Is
kind
that
of
a
the
better
opposite of
word?
like it's like a kaleidoscope where it's hard to pin down the colors of everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very 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 good idea.
The
Mm.
I used to love kaleidoscopes as a kid. I think I got one somewhere still.
I will give you that unlike our last book, World at End or whatever it was
Warrior
called.
at the World's End.
Yeah, I don't care. Uh, they were both fun books, but this one at least had a coherent story all the way through.
Did it?
Mm.
Did it?
Yes.
Because
Oh,
I need to
absolutely. Just
ask.
a lot of. That's why I said episodes as opposed to
Yes, but they ran into each other. They didn't just
mhm.
like pop up at the next location, and we're doing this now without resolving the last thing.
I
Uh,
must have fallen asleep at some point during one of my listens, and I, for the life of me, and I didn't have the time to go back and find out. Uh, what were they on a quest to accomplish?
They were trying
Okay,
to get the
so
sword. They were trying to get a sword, like one of the three swords of England, Cortana. That was the point. Um,
the witch gives him that quest at the beginning, and he's more interested of like finding a way home. And she
kinda.
she
yeah,
She
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 says
sends him
that
to the middle world, fairyland, so that he'll just get distracted
yeah.
by hot elf girls and not fulfill his purpose.
Well,
But
the,
the quest
the
is
the premise
to
the premise she was saying that, oh, if you go to Alfred, the king of fairyland, he'll be able to help you out of world. It's then revealed, like Tanner said, that oh no, we're just trying to make sure that you don't fulfill the prophecy, so we're just going to distract you for a million years until you're dead.
well, not even that. Just distract him until they've won and said, "Hey, Hosehead, we won." Ah!
we
I
were
had a
fighting.
feeling, Jason. I really, really enjoyed the way they did that, and I was hoping when first hearing oh it's a troll. I wonder they're going to do the thing with the fire, and sure enough, it did not disappoint.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Poul
Mm-hmm.
Anderson was a sci-fi and fantasy writer and a lot of history, but the guy should have written some horror, even outside of the
Yeah.
troll scene. And for those who've not read it, like he builds that up big time. Like he makes sure you are terrified of that thing before it even rises
Yeah,
from
that
the
that, that
dirt.
whole
Well,
description of the cave was really well done.
Hmm.
like that, or like any of the elements. If it was Lynn Carter, like say the troll riddle thing,
Hmm.
right?
That was
Uh,
genuinely
The giant
fun.
riddle.
yeah,
Yes, I was
yeah.
about to say
The giant riddle.
yes.
You're
Yeah,
right. Just that one sticks out to me because I ended up listening to that segment twice because it's where I stopped last night. Um, uh, if Lynn Carter had read it because he wrote the last book, right? We would have gotten to the giant. We would have been given the challenge of the riddle, and then they would have just run away or something, or it would have
yeah,
cut to the next chapter without them resolving that.
yeah.
Or more
I
accurately,
definitely
More accurately, the troll would say some funny lines, and then it describe how. And if anyone knows the reference to this, good on ya. They trick him with like asking him who played the Crisco Kid, and then they'd move on within 3 sentences.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very board of the ring style. I'm
That
actually
is where
going
it
to
came
use.
from, yes, and it's a trick
Oh,
question because tons of people have played the Crisco Kid, so you could just say, "Nope, wrong. It was this guy."
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to use the two 400-pound canaries and the why the chicken cross the road at some point.
Oh, that was gold.
that was
Because he
that
was
was
too
fun.
fat to
That
go around.
Yeah.
it was
Oh,
faster just to
you
walk.
forgot
Yeah,
you forgot the best parts. Like the giant's like, "Wait a sec," and he like tries to think it out. Okay, maybe
it was the
to
grass one
cross the
where it's like
road because
how
it's existential, and he's trying to find a higher purpose,
he
and he's like
yeah,
trying to
he
like
literally
figure
went
out.
Petersonian. He literally went Petersonian,
Yes,
trying to sound smart, and then the guy just goes logic loop. No, because it was just easier to go that way. Numbnuts. The
and he just
funniest
like
one.
flips out on him and
Well,
just
what's
swears
even
at him for a good
funnier
20
What
minutes.
was even funnier was the fact that he tried to do the blade of grass joke, and the guy's like, "Oh, how does that work?" It's like, "Oh, I lied. I
That's when
lied."
he swears. That was great.
That's when he gets so
And
pissed.
even better is that I've got his name here. Grunter, I think his name was.
Yeah,
Yep, Grotnir. He kind of like says, "I am the riddle champion of my people. So if
Yeah.
you give me some riddles, I'll give you my gold." And it's like this is written away where it's like, "Yeah, I'm the riddle champion of my county. You give me some good riddles."
no,
And I also found it really amusing because he was an ogre, right?
no,
And
he was a giant. He was a giant.
I
really,
think
because I
one
could,
critter gets referred to as an ogre at one point. That was kind of odd, maybe from the
yeah.
original.
But I like
People,
that idea that you know what we would normally expect to be a rather dim bulb was actually quite intelligent and wise. It would be quite the interesting role playing twist, having the party have to deal with something they think is just above retarded, and it ends up being quite.
he's intelligent. He has high intelligence but low wisdom
I
because
would
he can
argue
only
the
think in
guy's.
the most linear. He can think in only the most linear way possible.
I'd
He
argue he's
he
more
doesn't.
crafty than wise or intelligent. But yes,
What I mean is he's too trusting. He was like he never considered the fact that maybe this guy was like playing him for a fool. You
mhm.
know, it's like the joke of like Odysseus saying, "Oh, like what's my name, Mister Cyclops? Oh, it's nobody, and I'm blinded by nobody." You know,
um, yeah. There's tons of like little analogs and little wink nods to like past fantasy works, to past legends. Something I was going to bring up near the end, but I might as well bring up now is that another reason besides alphabetical, this might be the first in Appendix N, is this is kind of a nexus point for a lot of fantasy, believe it or not, because this is clearly drawing on stuff like Harold Shea, The King of Elfland's Daughter, The Matters of France, um, so much more. And this is what's going to influence stuff like Michael Moorcock, who ripped the story off
mm-hmm.
for wholesale. Probably the World of Tears. I can see a bit of World of Tears in this one.
Like
Some of Martin's.
the
Yep.
elves are obviously Melnibonéans. It's so
Yes.
painfully obvious that this is where
And
Moorcock gets the Melnibonéans from.
the Law Chaos battle and even the Eternal Champion.
Oh yeah.
Eh, but something I'd
Oh,
like to point out with the elves
but
is that
this as a side note, it's we know for a fact though because Razorfist says Moorcock invented all of this stuff first. He
oh
gave us our
that's correct.
assurance.
Oh yeah,
I
it's not
agree with
okay
him
for.
generally that he is correct on the Moorcock versus Zelast or not Zelast, Tchaikovsky debate. He is correct, but like,
To be perfectly blunt, and I'm a pretty big Corum fan. I honestly think I prefer the Witcher stuff to his.
oh yeah, no, Witcher is a much like better character and he's a much better person. But like he is like technically correct that it is plagiarized, but whatever, I don't care.
Well, it's not even
Most of
like
them,
okay, you took the white hair and you took the dark-haired girl and you brought the spell sword thing, but like it's like he'll make strawmans like Sirius Stormbringer, which is nonsense, and then he'll do things like ignore that the entire point of Elric is that he's the deciding factor in this big cosmic struggle, while Geralt is just a normal guy who's trying to keep a world together that's hell bent on falling apart.
Yeah,
It's
but
I
whatever.
know very little about The Witcher, but
Very
Tangent aside.
Yeah.
Tangent aside.
It's overhyped and boring. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
I agree with the first part. The short stories are better.
Yeah.
that does.
so obviously, we're all meant to rally behind the main character.
Mm-hmm.
But
There's a big old butt there.
How old was that swan girl again?
She's 18. She's 18.
okay, I thought she was like 15 or 16.
No,
This-
he expressly says she's 18.
Okay, good,
She's
good.
girl who looks barely 18. Or
I actually typed in my notes barely legal.
yeah,
And this is
Yeah, just
why.
don't let your-
This is why 2
let
weeks
your wife
back I
come across
said
those
I'm
rules.
kind of curious what Anderson and Carter were up to behind the doors of the Sword Sorcery Writers of America.
Dude, look,
different time.
they were also writing for a barely legal audience to begin with.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit less gross if it's like a 16-year-old thinking a 16-year-old is gorgeous. It's like
Yeah.
American Beauty. I mean, that wasn't that long ago.
Yes,
that's
but
what they actually
that was
look
a
like.
better. The point was he was a sick freak.
Because wasn't that story supposedly based on the book Lolita or something?
No, the movie Lolita is based on the book Lolita.
Yeah, but yeah, no shit, dude.
And the
I also
other
love,
movie Lolita was.
I also
based
love
on
how we're
the book
talking about like
Lolita.
other novels and film franchises, and we're here talking
It's
about
gonna
poetry
happen,
line.
man.
Well, you guys brought up the fucking like barely legal shit.
You brought up Razor Fist.
Yeah, so you
But
brought
you know
up
what the
the
funny
guy.
thing is? But dude, like on some level, I only brought it up as a half decent joke, or not half decent, but as yeah.
It's gonna happen. It always happens. It'll happen again. My point was, other than the main character, did you have like any other character that was maybe even your favorite?
Yugi.
Jinx.
Yugi.
Followed by Grotnir, if only because that guy Grotnir seals the show.
I liked Karahue, but the problem is he comes so late into the story
Yes.
that there's not enough.
Well, the Turk.
The
Yes,
Saracen,
the
yeah.
former,
whatever, that's all
Islamic guy who was defeated by Ulgar ages ago and converted to Christianity. Although another great piece of comedy in this is that we were guided by the prophet. And he realizes to himself, Jesus the prophet.
Well, no, yeah, like again, he's
Well-
learning.
Yeah.
We must extend grace and mercy unto the converts.
True.
The problem is.
Wait, what's
he
even
sa-
funnier
he
is that he says Allahu Akbar, which is even
Yeah.
funnier.
Well,
Okay,
yeah,
I didn't forget that then. I
Yes,
think he
yes.
corrects himself and goes, "Oops, sorry, God is greater."
No. It says praise the prophets or the saints. Praise the saints.
Yeah, or some shit.
afterward,
Yeah.
Which would be a downstep because Allah Akbar means praise God.
Well, because he understands that when he means Allah, he means the Muslim interpretation of God, which isn't the Christian God. So it's not a step down. If anything, it's a step up.
No, because they mean the
Because-
same
Because
God,
Allah
bro.
is just the Father. They
mean,
don't.
But
Did you know that
it
Allah is a
means
two-handed, two-handed, one-footed demon, right?
No, because no, we're not getting into theological debate. We're not getting into it. We're not getting into it.
So round the clock, Justin, favorite character?
Oh, the horned dog in me says the barely legal girl, but you know.
I knew it.
She was
Dumb
kind of
as shit.
the Swan Maid. She was kind of a fun character.
Leonora, yeah.
No. The night guy, whatever his freaking name was, because I don't give a shit about any of their names.
Holgear.
Fucking Tintin, if he had any balls. Yeah. If you
about you,
say his
Darcy?
name's Holger,
Holgi. I like Hughie. I liked him.
Hughie. We'll go
Hughie.
with
That's
that
the
one.
dwarf's name. Hughie. That's
Yeah.
his name. Holgier is the main character. Hughie is the dwarf.
Okay, okay.
Um, what other character
You
did I
need a little
like?
separation in the
Karahu, that
phonemes
was his
when
name,
naming your
Karahu.
characters.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's true.
okay.
Who else do I like? I
Really,
mean,
it's all
it's
you
kind of
ask me.
odd. It's kind of odd. I actually like uh the horse. Signor.
Papillon,
That was my
yeah,
pick.
Papillon is such a trooper in
No,
That
this.
was
I
my
know.
pick.
I like
I
him in
agree
the
with
sense
you.
that horse is a vicious fighter and he's very loyal. You know,
The Warhorse. The Paladin's
yeah,
Warhorse.
the paladins summon mount and like again, I paladins my favorite class. I'm
And
sorry.
I'd
It
also like
just
to point out that Papillon is French for butterfly, so that's why Olger's a bit taken aback with
I
this
forgot
big,
about that.
Yep.
powerful warhorse who's
I
named
read this
Butterfly.
today and I forgot about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Uh,
much good stuff in here. Morgan Le Fay, wonderful villain.
yes.
Villain.
Well, she's a villain that she opposes, though.
She's an
You kind of
antagonist. She's an
see, yeah,
antagonist.
you can
Yeah.
kind of see where she's coming from. I mean, this was her ex for many years.
Yeah.
Once again, the horn dog in me respects any antagonist that fights you with orgies.
Yep. Oh, thank you for reminding me. One of the great lines in this book. It would be rude to turn down an elven orgy.
I couldn't
Honestly, I'm
believe
gonna be
it.
real.
It would be
Honestly,
rude.
the romantic in me thought that it was actually really. I got really tired of all the fucking like Holgier, dude. Just stop being a fucking degenerate. Be a fucking man. Stop it. Just stop it. Get some help. Have a McDonald's. No, it just got gratuitous. It's like what he even admits that he's
Called
kind of this,
temptation, bro.
They are elves.
and he falls for it again and again. But like that's the thing. I liked it towards the end when he stopped doing that.
Yeah, it's called
know.
growth.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's why I'm conceding the point. It was just a little bit too gratuitous at the start, but whatever. But
Something else I'd like to point out is that and I can actually, so we'll be getting to this Dragon magazine someday. When Jean Wells was the first sage at Sage Advice, she talked about how she wasn't crazy about how elves are considered very flighty and very loosey-goosey. And she's like, elves are better than that. And it's like, if you read this, you kind of see what Gygax meant by flighty. It's
they're
taken by
chaotic.
whim. Yeah, they're taken by whims, and even whims they don't understand. It is
Yeah,
just how they are.
Even the elf, not the elf, the witch that he first meets, who
Mother Gerd?
and the woman in the cottage at the start, and Hughie even points out that they could, it's likely they'll betray you, but they might also just help you because they think it's funny. They that's
that would be the French Daniel Pan.
Exactly. But no, I actually like the way they represent law and chaos. It's why I often try and I hear Dark Knight ranting, so it's about the Crusades or the English. I also rant about the Roman Empire on occasion, so
Just like the meme.
Exactly. But no,
Me about Prydain.
So Tanner,
the only thing I rant about is Taco Bell.
I don't see there's worse things to rant about. I love Taco Bell. Fuck it.
Tanner, what was your favorite character?
As said before, Hughie the Dwarf, right near the beginning, he is a wonderful co-lead. Olgir is a wonderful lead. However, I must give, and along with favorite, not favorite, I think you should give a dark horse, because I was thinking that one incompetent leader from 2 weeks back, he should have had a dark horse section. I would say that the dark horse for me is Grotnir, because of that glorious, glorious riddle contest. I lied! What?!
Yeah, it's genuinely hilarious. It's just it's so dumb. It's just it's so stupid. It's so dumb.
At the same time, it kind of gives you kind of a little peek into when it was written. What was funny, slapstick and that sort of thing, without being vulgar or anything like that. It was just good, clean, fun
Wouldn't
humor.
call it clean, but I get you.
Yeah, I mean, even there's another like what I find was kind of a humorous thing was that magician they go to for the glamour, and he has just when they fame this is the sign outside his door. Martinus Trismegistus, Magister Magici, spells, charms, prophecies, healing, love potions, blessing, curses, ever filling purses, special rates for parties. And they'll say like, "Oh, I have things for hangovers," and then you just see because Holgar is like a college educated man, he sees the guy's degree and just goes, "Forthwith, I give unto thee the privileges of," etc., etc. And it's like, huh, that's kind of funny. It, it's like a little bit of world building where it's funny, but it also is like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. There would be colleges to teach people how to do magic.
And look at
It's
that.
their natural
AD&D Wizard
philosophy.
College.
Well,
Yep.
not only that, there was this little clip in what you said. Everfull purses. That's where the Buck Nerds Everfull purse comes from. I'm guessing.
Really?
A
Which
lot of
is-
the D&D werewolf is in this too, because
Yeah.
there's an episode where they have to figure out who is the werewolf and
Yep.
heal her up.
Yep.
That
he just
was an
automatically
interesting
knows
little side
through
quest.
deduction.
Well, that's because he's detecting evil. That's the thing. He's detecting evil.
Oh, not exactly. He's just using detective
No.
skills. Like,
No, because he
uses
calls
logic of
no, because
he
he
actually
calls on
uses logic of
God.
determination.
He calls on God to do this specifically. He does.
No, seriously, bro. He does. He goes through the list of people.
I think I remember what you're referring to. He senses that there is a werewolf here, but he's not exactly sure where it is. Right?
Yeah.
Because I could have swore that the werewolf at the end was more
The
or less
daughter, yeah. It was the daughter, yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
And then they just ship her off to the city where she'll be out of the range of the darkness, so it won't affect her.
Which
At
is
least
just a consistent motif. Like it shows up constantly that every time he deals with chaos, they even like with the mermaid woman and
Nixie,
Morgan.
another
Yeah,
critter, the Nixie, right down to
Yep.
doubling up predatory fish.
Yep.
And I'd also like to point out too, the reason she's able to like grab Holger and drag him down to the water is he's a bit mad that Eleonora and
Carahue.
Thank you, are
Yep.
batting eyes at each other. Many modern men can understand why this is painful. He's getting annoyed. He's thinking bad things. He pricks his finger on a hook and yells, "God damn it!"
Yeah, he
And in that
blasphemes basically.
Yep,
Yeah.
and in that one chaotic act, she's allowed to hop up and drag him right down.
I
So
mean,
we've got Poul-
yeah, she even says you can't banish me so easily by making the sign of the cross. Like any exorcist will tell you the same thing. You can't if you are living in sin, you can't hold up a cross. It's well, not that you can't, because maybe God can endow you with grace in that moment. But most times or not, you can't just hold up a crucifix to a demon. Because like you don't have authority over me.
at least in the Catholic sense, yeah, which he converts to at the end. And also note that Gritter's even able to come in because all the lusty elf babes is getting his face all red.
Mm-hmm. I will also point out that the thing I was referring to, he does say he hears the wheezing of a sick woman. "O Christ, who cast out demons, aid me now." He does invoke Christ to get help.
The lay on hands.
Yeah. Well, that was just as he was still just trying to figure out who the werewolf was. So he does. Now you could argue that he was just doing deductive reasoning and needed help, but I would at least say that you could argue that's where a paladin's ability to automatically detect evil could come from.
Quick question for you guys: how many pages was this book?
My
200.
My copy is 260. I've got one of the fancier covers.
Yeah,
okay.
it's
the original copy was 190, I think. I looked it up earlier.
The version I have, if you're not including the notes at the back where he goes back to the real world, it goes up to 217.
Okay. Because he packed a lot into this. A lot of little adventures along the way.
I'm also surprised because the original version, the original release of it was not a pulp book. It was released as a hardcover first, which is the 1961 version. Was 191 pages hardcover, and the trim was 5.5 by 8.5. So standard, I think, which
Okay.
makes it
Maybe
like bigger
smaller
than
print.
no, no. That's a bigger format size in book trim. Like the one we read last week, 2 weeks ago, was a pocketbook, so 4.25 by 687. Much smaller book, right? That being in imperial, not metric. Oh.
Yeah, so he managed to pack quite a bit, I should say, into this. I'd almost forgotten about the werewolf. That was one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a favorite part? Start with you, Tanner.
Well, I think I've already mentioned it a few times, but up there is definitely their time in the middle world, and definitely the proto John Carpenter's The Thing fight with the troll.
Mm.
You will never look at those things the same way again after he describes how the hand starts moving on its own.
I thought it was the slice of rib cage meat or whatever slurping along. I think
Yep.
that was a little more
Yeah.
The
easily.
Yeah.
explosion of intestines, like
Like
DMs take note.
Snuffins.
Let
Yeah.
let the trolls be like fighting the Thing in a fist fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You chop its head off. Cool. Now the serpent intestines burst out. Have fun.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Ugh.
have to.
Get grisly.
I'm gonna have to steal that.
Mm.
How about you, DK? Favorite part?
I seriously, I think the ending was my favorite.
Really? Okay, because I got some questions toward the end of
Hmm.
this little thing
Let's see if
about
we can
the ending.
answer. But yeah, I do appreciate the poetry of them finally revealing, although anyone who's read The Matter of France probably guessed by now, how he came to be and him hopping on Papillon one more time and facing the darkness, and that was beautifully writ.
Hmm.
And then it cuts to the epilogue.
Yeah.
Which I actually liked.
Oh, absolutely. I actually, believe it or not, I've heard people slag this one. I actually kind of like the folksier kind of bookend of this. Kind of like, let me tell you about my old bud, Olger.
Mhm.
Very,
It
I
was
can't
better
remember.
done than John Carter.
He,
Very very humble. You know, let me tell you about this guy. Not let me tell
mhm.
you about myself.
Yeah. No. Just like it's the same kind of structural ending that like Barsoon,
Hmm.
Princess of Mars had, but
Mhm.
um,
Definitely a lot of Edgar Rice Burroughs in this one.
better written than that ending. Uh, I do like the and by God damn it, I'm gonna find my way back there.
And I'd
Yeah.
also like to point out, he's looking for grimoires, books of magic, and
Yeah.
paladins later in their levels do get clerical spells, so
Hmm.
that might be
Yeah.
another wink nod.
Yeah. I would say the other scene I would pick that I like just as a little, the comedy scene. Now, granted, it's later revealed that Morgan told kind of knew this was going to happen, and because she wanted to take him alive, but where he's seeing the party getting like decimated by the cannibalistic barbarians, and his bright idea is just go light my smoke, and the dwarf goes, "Wait, what?" It's like, just do it, you. And he like he billows up on the top of his horse, the way he says it's like he made the horse stand behind him to make them look like there's darkness behind him, and he just billows out smoke to freak out the bloody barbarians, and they failed the morale check and they fucked off.
Hmm.
Yep.
Hmm.
Oh,
Which is a nice nod to the fact that barbarians are very mistrusting of magic.
yep.
They are
And,
terrified of it.
and also note that the smokes he picked up earlier, those he bought off of a different dwarf, a mountain dwarf, as opposed to a forest one. So we've got the multiple
Yep.
dwarf subtypes, hill and
Nice.
mountain.
Yep.
And then we should talk about Hugi because we've been dancing around the 2 foot 10 little
Yeah.
guy a little bit.
F's in the
We'll
chat,
get there in just a
boys.
minute. I want to finish
F's in
this
the
round of
Hold
chat.
on a
questions.
sec.
Justin,
What
favorite
was the
part?
question? Oh, favorite part?
Except for Hugi.
Except for Yugi.
Mm.
What if my favorite part is Yugi? uh, I don't really know. There's like a lot of like
I
interpersonal
just
building
realized it takes.
between the adventure points. I really like that. I like when there's actual stuff happening between the action scenes. What what was that, Tanner? Wow. Okay.
He'll come back.
Okay. But yeah, like the I guess you call it the interstitial moments. Uh, were some of my favorite parts of the story. They wouldn't make sense without the action beats, but
Mhm.
obviously you need the glue to hold things together.
Yep.
The world building, if you would.
Yeah, I
'Cause-
really myself I don't have like one favorite moment because there were a lot of really good surprises,
Mm.
uh, and I was rushing it, so unfortunately I didn't get a chance to really soak in some of it. But I really enjoyed the werewolf, the troll, the riddle game, some other little things here and there. What's up, Jose?
Oh, excuse me.
So I'm gonna go
Apologies.
with the opposite, Justin. Least favorite thing about the book.
my least favorite, the the I don't like Nazis insert just for the sake of saying I don't like Nazis insert. Especially the point where he refers to them as being the forces of chaos in our world, which makes no fucking metaphysical
Well,
or
I mean, the
philosophical
fact that
sense
they're
That's
whatsoever.
true.
that they're pagan occultists.
No,
You
they
could,
aren't. Stop being a
Some are.
fucking turd.
they are, dude. They were
In
No,
the
pagan.
man, I
clubhouse where we
know more
can.
about them than you do.
Dude, they practice magic.
No, they didn't. That's anti-Nazi propaganda from the Allies.
Dude,
Literally.
they literally professed that they performed seances. They said
Mm,
this, not the Allies.
Trust me, bro.
Look,
You're
dude, I know
being a
you have a
spur.
hard on for the painter, but it's fine. Like they're not
But
lawful.
I know they're not fucking forces of chaos.
Yeah,
I would
I
argue
kind of.
those who practice magic would have been, but whatever.
Well, it seemed to me uh, from a lot of what I've gathered, they were trying to impose their own order. It may
Mm.
have been lawful evil to some people's opinion, but it did seem like they were trying to impose some sort of structure.
I think he's trying to describe chaos in like the Beckme sense, but yeah, that definitely
Well, more
throws
OD and D,
weird
really.
back.
More
Yeah,
OD and D, but yeah, you know,
and then
But it feels
Shadow,
like it was just tacked on there for virtue signal points of
which
the
it
era.
was.
that and the
And
Yeah, it
the
was not
tongue in
really
cheek of
necessary.
them trying to save what's his name here? The physicist they mentioned is probably Niels Bohr.
Who?
Niels Bohr, he was a nuclear physicist. At the beginning, when they get waylaid and there's a fight in
it wasn't
Denmark.
probably, it actually, like, it's listed as Niels Bohr.
Yes. Like, they don't say his name for some reason, but if you know the dates and you know nuclear
Yeah.
engineers, you can probably eyeball it's Niels Bohr.
Okay, in the Wikipedia article, it's listed as
Yes.
Niels Bohr. So, uh, I didn't remember them saying a name either. So,
Force of chaos, or domination. Mm.
Um, my least favorite part of this book, and when I
Uh,
said,
uh,
it's got problems,
Pardon me, I couldn't.
Um.
Tanner, could you repeat that?
well, I was just gonna say, part of the my least favorite part, and what I mean by this is not a perfect book, is you can absolutely tell this was meant to be an episodic series of stories that got turned into a fix up. Except we only got the major parts of it, and then the fix up threw in a bunch of other stuff. Because you get stuff like Olger wondering who he is and how he can't consummate things with Eleonora because they're going to get split after all. And this, for much longer than it probably should be. Like, by after Elfland, even if he doesn't know who he is or what he's supposed to do, it should probably be ride or die.
Hmm.
Or like, you know what? I don't know. The answer will come eventually. Fuck it, we ball.
I
That
will say
and Mhm.
I will say I like the fact that there was some effort actually done to make them into a coherent narrative,
Oh,
which a lot
absolutely.
of fix-ups don't do. They just kind of slap them together and maybe put
Yeah,
two or
this one's
three
definitely going for the
words.
picaresque, which is appreciated.
Yeah.
And go figure, it was you, Dark Knight, who mentioned them setting up the smoke scene.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. I know you appreciate the foreshadowing, Justin.
The smoke signal. Sorry. Repeat that.
Well, you always there's a running gag where you go, if you want to do a cool scene, you go back and mention something earlier, so it's not just complete
Yeah.
rug pull from the audience. And so he bought smokes from a dwarf earlier, and then realized could have got more for these. And then
Yeah.
later on, he uses those same smokes to scare the shit
Yeah.
out of some woad
Well,
The
hallucinating.
barbarians.
it's
Yeah.
one of Chekhov's major rules, right? The
Hmm.
gun. If you want to have a gun in the third act,
You
mention that
gotta
it
set it up. Yep.
exists sometime.
I mean, he
Even
even
if you come up with that idea in your first draft in the third act,
Hmm.
when you do your revision, add a few lines earlier on so it doesn't seem
magically appear
like
out of nowhere. Yeah.
magical, like, feel like Deus Ex Machina, which was very
Hmm.
famous in like Greek and earlier
Well, I
Roman
mean, I
times.
think I think that the presupposition with the Greek one is that they knew the gods existed anyway, so they didn't need to say it. But yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah, it does feel cheap.
even with
Yeah. If
it's it's
Deus Ex Machina is a little bit of a it's a legitimate term, but it's used with a little bit of maybe not spite, but because the machine itself was like a crane where the actor would be like dropped onto the stage, you pick up the other actor, be lifted up, so he's the god
or
of the machine.
or there
yeah
was like a platform, like there was like the
Yeah.
top part of the stage. There was like a door you'd open up and they'd be raised up above because the whole point is that the god is meant to be hovering above the
Hmm.
other
well
actors. You know.
it's also a byproduct of early writing that
Yeah.
you wouldn't revise things because it was cheap. Like storytelling during that time period was like pleb stuff. People did it as like larks.
Entertainment. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, the
like
Greeks still took their story seriously, and I know there was even Greek playwrights that roasted the god and the machine a few times.
Well,
yes.
yeah.
Well,
They but
that came later though.
Hmm.
but
Oh
a
no, I
lot of
mean
the
back in the
philosophers
day.
like
Well,
Plato overtly said that a lot of these plays were blasphemous because it
yeah,
denigrated the gods. So
Oh yes,
yeah.
a poet declared that in the perfect society, poets need to get the fuck out. Which, granted, given our modern society, makes a bit more
yeah,
sense.
I
But
mean
looking
the
back,
Romans did the
like,
same
what?
thing. They didn't treat the plays the way the Greeks did. They hated them, and they treated actors as lower than prostitutes. That should
Yes,
kind of tell
the
you.
And
quote
rightly
was
so.
actresses because it was a very specific number of families who pretty much had a stranglehold on the art,
Yep.
Yeah.
and
Well,
that's why people absolutely hated this. But
in Roman society, they would write stories and then destroy them after their first reading
mhm.
because it was considered such a frivolity.
Dis- disposable. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only like a couple of Roman novels that we even have access to, and that's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
because they would have them read once before an audience and then thrown into the fire or whatever.
Fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Dark Knight, least favorite part?
Like I said earlier, the overt like overuse of philandering, like he's like the ladies' man stuff was a bit much, but at least it was kind of saved at the end because it was like he was supposed to overcome this, so I forgive it a little bit. But what else? I can't think of anything else other than that really, because a lot of the tropes I'm used to, like oh the troll. I kind of knew that the troll was going to get back up because I played D&D and I know that they regenerate. I know that the elves are tricksy because I've read Moorcock. So
It's weird though because
Yeah,
when you
but
mentioned
you haven't
troll,
read the same Moorcock Shadow has.
Or the King of
uh,
Elfland's daughter. Aha.
when you said about the troll though, we in this journey through Appendix N, we've read a bunch of stories with trolls in them, and they all have
mhm.
like different flavors. This was literally the first time and the only time that a troll is regenerated and needed
Yeah,
fire or acid.
Even in the other Poul Anderson story we did, The Broken Sword, the troll is only referenced once to make a changeling, and that's
Oh no,
it.
there's other trolls in there. Like they're the bigger quotes enemy faction, but I don't remember them regenerating, and they're way more
Because we
honor
didn't see
bound
much of
than
them. Yeah, we didn't see much of them
this
in The
one.
Broken Sword, so
So when
Yeah.
this actually happened, it was one of those yes,
Hmm.
moments.
The
That
only thing this
like
troll is
yeah.
lacking is the snake hair. Well, not snake hair, but like the wormy hair, and that's what the troll in the Roaring Trumpet had,
right.
along with
What
Jaws.
You guys remember that Family Guy moment where Peter is watching a movie and he gets all excited because they say the title of the movie in the movie.
Something.
Right.
Yeah.
I had that moment. That same sort of feelings. Like finally, a troll that regenerates and blah blah blah. Being
what I think what I actually liked the most, that just as a side note, what I liked the most about the troll is its eyes. How they
Yes.
describe that when the light just shone on the eyes, there was no like reflection off it. It just absorbed the light out of it. Like that was like I want to actually. It was the same thing. Like just to go back to this with the elves. Like when Hilgar first met the elves, he thought they were blind. He genuinely thought they were blind because of the color and like he thought their eyes were like a cloudy.
oh
Blue
right.
on
It,
blue. Before Dune,
yeah.
no less.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that would be actually a kind of an interesting
They're
way to
not
introduce
elves,
like.
they're Nords.
Oh, I
Mm,
got the reference there.
mm,
And don't forget that in the original Monster Manuals, the cover and the inside image of the troll, their eyes are just pure black.
Hmm.
yeah.
So living in the dark the way they would and did, there
Yeah.
would be no reason for anything but pupil.
I do love the fact that when they talked about the troll, that's like, yeah, there's stories of humans killing giants, but no one's killed a troll.
Oh, that was a
It's
great
like,
line.
Agreed, David.
and it's like you think in like again in D&D terms, but giants are so much bigger, and then you realize why, and it's like, oh yeah, if you don't have silvered or fire weapons, you're kind of fucked.
Mhm. So
Hmm.
for me, the ending was like really confusing because it seemed like he was like in a real big hurry to wrap it all up, and I'm
Mm.
like, wait, what just happened here? And I
Okay,
literally
let me
didn't
try and
have the time
explain
to
that.
rewind it.
So what
Um,
happened is, it's coming to the deadline where Chaos is gonna secure a victory. They're gonna kill Olger and his buddies, but he finally manages to get to the Saints' ground. He finally avoids the nightmare where if you look upon it, you die. He's reunite with Cortana. He's made a full man again. He gets his memories and he goes out and becomes the Eternal
Yeah,
Champion.
the son has gone down into the underworld, claimed his father's sword, and come back up into the
Yes,
upper world.
that's what Anderson was going for.
Yep. What
okay,
the
but
reason
then
why.
how did he end up back in modern times?
Because once his mission was done, he was
Balance
just
had been
tossed
restored.
back. Yeah,
Yeah,
so you just go back to Earth.
the imbalance of chaos in the world was what drew him back. Because it's like it said at the end when like some rumor that he goes back to Avalon or to Krookberg Castle until France or Denmark needs him again. That's kind
Hmm.
of the point he was driving at. That they drew him back to the mid world because the middle world needed him to restore balance. This is kind of like like Tanner said, the idea of the eternal champion.
Okay,
Hmm.
because
Mm.
I was wondering about the
Yeah,
his origin. How he was just found as a baby, that kind of thing, and I'm like, okay, that's
yeah.
interesting.
I, I
The,
kind of
the,
pieced together like halfway through that like, oh yeah, it's going to be obvious that he's from here,
mhm.
because but that's not a bad thing necessarily.
No,
I've
no,
yeah.
it was an interesting way to
Hmm.
do the
Something I should
time travel.
mention at the
Oh,
end
go
of the
ahead.
book, there's a mention of who knows, maybe we'll need Olga Carlson again. And well, Anderson never wrote another novel continuing the story. Holker has actually appeared a few times out looking for his world, looking for Nora, because in Anderson's Midsummer Night Tempest, there is an in between the worlds where he meets Valeria Medichuk, who is another one of Anderson's character, and she gives him pointers on, okay, here's how you do world traveling magic. He
Lock the
appears in a
banner.
tournament and is seen at the end of Number of the Beast by Heinlein, he meets Conan.
Really?
In Jack Chalker novel, and the devil will drag you under. And
Oh,
then
that's funny.
about 11 years back, he there is a short story made years after Anderson's death where he does go back there, but I'm not sure if I love the resolution or not.
What
Okay.
happens?
Are you okay with spoilers?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyone who's not on the other end, just turn off your volume. Justin can give you a thumbs up when it's time to go back. So, here we go. 3, 2, 1. So, finally, years later, like 30
Premature as
years
always,
later,
Justin.
30 years later, he finally gets back to this, magical medieval France. He finds Alienora, and what's happening in the intermediate is that she's found a good man who's the village blacksmith, and they have kids, and she's like, "Look, Holger, I love you. You're a great guy, but I'm sorry. That was years ago. I owe it to my family now. I'm sorry. We're not a couple." And so, very dejected, Holger rides off, and right around the corner is Morgan Le Fay.
Oh my god.
And so, the implication being either Holger's going to be like, "No, buzz off,"
I already
or
gave it a thumbs up. We got the ending. You can't keep going.
Alright.
The poor
Yeah,
people tune back in. You can't stop.
Well, I wasn't sure if you had thumbs up yet.
Yeah, I'm going to immediately discount that as
And
crap.
Okay.
as you
'cause in
should,
my-
because again, this was like years after Anderson's death by other writers, so it's been
yeah, I'm not gonna go
for
with the,
subversion.
what was that
Like,
damn
remember-
Tom Hanks movie, Castaway? Was it?
yes.
Where he gets back and no, fuck that, no.
That at least
Yeah,
makes sense for that
if-
story.
But
If
not
more
for someone
than-
like Eleonora,
Yeah, it's like this is, and plus anything, it makes sense for a story like Castaway because it's a story set in real life. This is a romantic story, like, and I mean in the sense of its high romanticism.
Yes.
The guy is supposed to, after years and years, finds the girl, and even if you have that kind of sad story where she's old and she's about to die, at least you get that reunion. That would be something.
Yeah, for me, I
It
would go
reeks
even
of
further.
subversion.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's absolutely, hey, Tiger, so it didn't work with your old girl. Why don't you come back to my place? Which, granted, Morgan Le Fay and Olger were a couple for years, but it's like, come on.
He moved on. You know.
Yeah.
Who wrote this subversive?
That would be, I'll name and
What were
shame
you trying to
them.
say, Shadow? What were you?
Look at that Harry Turtle Dove, edited by Greg Bear and Gardner Dorizos.
Oy
in my head
vey.
canon, he's
You
going to
don't
come back
say.
right at the moment he left, and they just continue on from there. She was a swell gal, and they deserved each other. So in my head canon, when he gets back, it'll be like he was gone like a minute. You know what I mean? And
If you wanted to do something clever, you could also have her have found a grimoire and be looking for him across the cosmos.
Oh, that's really good.
And by
That's a
chance, they like
subversion.
bump into each other.
They both switch worlds at the same time, go looking for each other.
Oh, that would be
you're not
so.
gonna- you're just
That'd be funny.
Cut
Give
every
the
other
Magi
track.
Come on, man.
And then,
Every
like,
other-
she like meets the guy who's like writing the story. Hello there. Have you seen Holger? Yeah. Do you know where he is? Maybe just wait a few hours. I'll get you a cup of tea or something.
Just wait right here, because
Every
it
other-
would be funnier if you did like a flashback. If you did a flashback scene where, like, 5 hours earlier, Holger came to him asking him about Eleanor's, like, oh, I think she went that way, and then he goes, oh fuck.
No,
Wait, just wait here, Eleanor. He'll be here in about 12 hours. Give him a second.
No. You do chapter 1. It's his perspective. He finds the grimoire. He goes to the world. Then it cuts, and it's like 5 hours earlier. She's like looking through a library, finds the grimoire, and goes to his world.
Yeah, that's
And
why
then
I
every
said
other
that you could-
transfer, every other chapter is just like vice versa, following them.
Yeah,
you know.
that's why I referenced Gift of the Magi, where they just no. You're a bad person, Justin. Don't do that.
Yeah,
Let
and
fictional
then, like,
characters have their happy
well,
ever
no.
after.
Right at the
Eventually
last
they
moment,
will.
right at the last moment, one of them finds another way back because the grimoire burns up or something, and then whatever one goes back to their world is just about to catch the other one doing the spell to go back. So you get the last minute, and then it's like They ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, but I also was wondering because in one of the monster books, I think it's Monster Manual 2 or
Yep,
yeah,
Swan Maze.
the Swan Man. I'm like, where does this even come from? I'd never heard of it. Growing up in all my readings and stuff, and I still every once in a while I see that picture and I'm like, I wonder what that's from. And now I know,
Mhm.
and it makes it even better. Uh,
Something else from this story that a lot of people take for granted. If you remember, in the depths of the earth, right before the troll encounter, Hughie detects stonework.
Oh yeah. Well,
You
and I
feel
love that scene
Mhm.
where your man is arguing with him, and he says, "Let me do my damn job," and he goes, "Okay, I'm sorry."
Pretty much. Oh, and speaking of Hughie, and I'll wrap up the AD&D isms, because much like Roaring Trumpet, this is very much the world Gygax envisioned on the page right there. Um,
Mm.
some of it.
uh, I'd actually argue most, but yeah, some is fair.
I would say Conan was his big influence, but
Oh yeah,
this is another big
definitely
one.
Planet of
Stafford and
Adventure.
Gray Mouser.
Yep.
Mm.
Let me
Always
create.
having
You
Let me
fun in
can
create
that
again.
conversation.
When I mean,
it's stuff like this you can tell that Gygax had a fighter class bias. He
oh
didn't
yeah,
hate other classes. He just really liked playing fighters.
Well,
yeah.
you got to admit though, for most of literature's history, it was always the fighter.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
granted, the fighter was also expected to be a poet and a statesman, and
Yep.
sometimes a magician. But
But the the,
yeah,
the, the, the traditional hero was always a fighter until I want to say like the new age of science fiction and fantasy, or
like they.
Mm.
maybe the Hobbit.
Yeah.
You know,
And even
uh,
then, Bilbo still fights.
An
Bilbo still
aristocrat.
kills.
He's still an aristocrat,
Yeah.
so he's expected
Yeah.
to,
Better
you
call.
know. Hmm.
yeah, but he was a burglar. I mean,
Yes, he's a burglar first, but he can still fight he can still fight a bit.
Well, remember, originally hobbits there were no thieves, so the hobbits had to be a
They were
fighter.
fighters, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Merry and Pippin were soldiery.
Yep.
as was
I
Sam.
think.
Yep.
I
He was
think
a
that's why
scrapper.
burglar like the fourth level title
Yes.
for thieves.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's a callback to the level that
Hmm.
um, the hobbits could be fighters. That demarcated them as heroes. They were heroic at fourth level.
Yeah. And speaking of the small critters in D&D, and I'm probably going to get reamed for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Hughie is not just a really good example of a D&D dwarf, right down to the burrow. He's also a really good example of the D&D gnome.
Yep.
Because if
Mm.
you remember, because he's a bit shorter than a typical dwarf, he's got that jolly, cantankerous humor. I am well aware those are oxymorons. He's definitely a woodsy fella. He's not an
Well,
illusionist, mind you. That came later. But and I want to say, although this might be my brain fooling with me, isn't there a line where he mentions that he spoke to like a mole or a badger or a burrowing animal at some point?
He references that the girl does because she hangs out with them, but I don't think he
Okay,
does.
that might be where the Valley Elf getting the gnome
I could
language.
be misremembering that. I
Valiant.
don't
Yeah,
remember. You could be right. You could be right, actually, now that I think
yes,
about it.
I was actually gonna say thank you for reminding me, Jason. Go figure for Gygax, fighter, fighter, fighter. Some of his best PCs that he ever played were
Were
magic users.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mordenkainen? Or
Uh,
Mordenkainen?
yeah, it's the guy that
Yeah.
Wizards keep slagging.
Yeah. Big B is
And go
another
figure, they
one.
also turned him Bigby, and didn't they turn Bigby into a gnome one time?
No,
I never followed that lore at all.
You
I
probably
had
you
should.
might be
It's
just
not worth it.
thinking about Critical Role because the gnome bard uses Big
Oh,
B's
I
hand
fucking
all the
hate that
time.
guy. I
I
cannot stand
know.
that fuck. Okay, okay, you. I'm not as bothered about like really racy stuff happening in fantasy stories as you are. It's just something we're gonna have to like a difference we'll respect. There's a point where it goes beyond racy fantasy, beyond hentai, and just becomes stupid frat boy humor. And
Yeah.
a bard doesn't have to be perfect. Flam was nowhere near perfect, but you are a scholar, you are a zealot warrior, you are a war
Well,
chanter, you are not
and a
Potus.
religious you're also a
Yep.
religious
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is that they mistake the bard for a troubadour, because things like
Mhm.
Shakespeare was called a bard when he's
Yeah.
actually a troubadour. He's an entertainer. He's a minstrel.
Yeah,
Bards are not
I think
minstrels. They
then-
don't sing saucy songs. Bards are chroniclers. They
Mhm.
recount epic religious tales of their y'all's ancestry.
Shakespeare did do that in his plays, though.
Oh yeah, every other
But,
joke is a
but
penis
they were more
joke, but,
propaganda.
like,
They were more propaganda pieces. They
Yeah,
weren't like
all
Yeah.
of them are, bro. I'm gonna
so
let you in
is
on
so is
All of them are.
what am I thinking? The Fairy Queen, until like the new volumes 10 years later, where the Edmund Spencer had lost patience with Queen Victoria. His
Mm.
first character, Iarg, love that name, was a fighter, but he didn't get played much after Morty came in. Okay, neat.
you
This
know,
is good context.
a classic example of one of the later fantasy bards was actually Fafford from Fafford and the Grey Mouser.
Yep, he was a minstrel too, and they mentioned that his voice is
Really?
actually much lighter for a guy his muscle mass and size, because
Yes.
he's singing all the time.
Yeah,
I thought
not
he was a
only that- not
barbarian.
only
Is
that,
he?
but
He's
Is
a
he actually?
he's a fighter, thief, bard, but he's from a primitive people, so he's a barbarian.
right,
Oh,
and his
barbarian.
his
Then he's not
upbr-
civilized. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
and
kind
his
of like
upbringing was very had a great deal of reading and storytelling through his mother and the witches and all
Well,
that.
I mean, Conan is also an extremely learned man,
Oh,
and people
absolutely.
still think the barbarian is a big dumb brute who likes to hit things.
that's because that's what RPGs keep pushing, and that's what all the
Oh,
memes are.
but guys,
It's like,
Well, it
do you know
wasn't
that in
just
5e?
RPGs. I'm going to get some hate for this, but the Arnold
Wow.
Schwarzenegger movie played him as a meathead.
I was about
Yeah.
to
No,
say,
he
and
didn't.
even then, they still educate him a bit.
Yeah,
but
he.
not enough for the
Agreed.
general
Oh,
audience.
yeah, he's nowhere near as smart as Book Conan. I'll grant you that.
Yeah.
He's nowhere near that smart.
Yeah,
But it
Conan's
was from
mostly
that
a
point,
linguist.
because of
Yeah.
who they hired. It was kind of from that point that the barbarian was just.
Well, it was more so MMOs and like modern video games that did it, and it's kind of funny that modern players who have kind of done the 180 and what if we made barbarians really smart? It's like, you mean
Everything
like
all just
Conan?
goes- And
You
I
mean
need to
like
make clear
Conan?
here. And I need to make clear here, I actually like a lot of the big air quotes Conan ripoff characters. I've got a soft spot for that subgenre. But like
Mm-hmm.
Oh, me
I'm
too.
making one of
like
those.
Ongor and Kothar, they have their moments, but they're noticeably a bit more simple.
You got to read. You got to read Brack the Barbarian.
Yes. Go figure. I actually remember 10 or 20 years ago where people were like, oh, Brack's so stupid. It's such a ripoff. And now as soon as John Jakes is dead, Brack is the best. He's awesome. I'm not
in
blaming.
his very first book,
Yes.
he literally stated he was ripping off Conan because there wasn't enough Conan characters out there. There needed to be more of that
Yeah.
that man of action kind of character.
Now,
Mm.
now, speaking of Conan, when it comes to the movies, I know you don't like the remake because the actor,
Momoa.
Momoa, he's a little dark, but for a guy that's out in the sun all the time, I can buy it.
That is
They do age up or raise his intelligence in that movie. He's not as dim-witted. He's a lot closer to the way he is in the books.
I should note for his
the
dark
Pierre brothers.
skin, someone actually found mummified remains of ancient Celts. The people that, not the historical Chimerians, but the ones that Robert D. Howard was describing. Sure enough, they were dark like that, but they had blue eyes, just like Conan.
Yeah,
No, they weren't.
For me,
Let me finish the show. That article that they did in what was the magazine? The artist deliberately darkened them for controversy, and when they did a follow-up article the next
They had to apologize?
behind a paywall.
Aw.
No, not apologizing, but like the rest of like the article explaining the stuff was behind a paywall, so you
Oh,
wouldn't
that's
know it if you
sleazy.
weren't.
Well, it's the
just
same thing
deliberate-
that
it was
it's the same
deliberate
thing.
controversy baiting.
It's the same reason when they say like all the Greeks and the Romans like condone homosexuality in
They
like
really
the same
didn't.
way that we do, but they'll later say, oh, but when the Romans mean homosexual, they mean a very different thing than what we do, but they bury that deep within
And
the
there's
article or the
quote after
text.
quote of them just saying it's base and depraved, and they'd always like
They
call their
use
political rivals
Rafanodosis.
gay. Yeah.
They punished them with Rafanodosis. They burnt them at the stake. They commended the Germans for how they punished these people for what they would have considered crimes at the time. It's like,
and
Okay,
the
this is really
evidence,
dark, but I gotta go there. Don't touch
oh,
me.
no, it's all good.
and the evidence,
Correct.
the evidence for being pro-gay is like 12 pieces of pottery that were like
Made by the elite.
no, that they were literally meant to be like body humor,
Yeah,
like comic strips from Playboy kind of humor.
Yeah,
yeah.
nothing you'd bring out
You
for the
know,
kids.
All scatological humor in plays by
Yeah.
by Josephus, I think it was, or something like
Yeah,
that.
and usually the results in those plays where they got killed.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's just, yeah. Or they'll do the really egregious stuff by saying, well, like the whole pediastry thing, they totally condone it. It's like, no, they didn't. They really didn't.
Parents would hire bodyguards to make sure that the male mentor was not doing that to their kids.
Well, they considered it a death penalty offense if you snuck into the bathhouse or the gymnasiums in schools of young boys. If you were an adult male, it was a death penalty offense. It's like,
Because
Yeah.
if you're not the teacher, what are you doing there?
doing there.
Mhm.
But anyway, we have digressed off this.
changing the towels.
Yeah, and now thoroughly demonetized. Is there any parting thoughts for?
Whoa! I got a couple more questions, guys.
Bring back eunuchs.
Funny you should mention that because they do the eunuch voice in this one.
Yeah, I'm in 100%.
What are you gonna say, Shadow?
Well, I wanted to address what Jason said. The Conan movie could have been named anything else but Conan, and it would have been a great movie. It deviated too far from the novel. They couldn't even spring for the hair dye. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
You wanna know the sad
Blue
thing?
eyes. My problem with Momoa isn't that it has nothing to do with his race. It's the fact that he willingly and wholeheartedly decided to jump into not just one but two roles that were classically created as more or less white guys. And he's like, yeah, sure, I know I'm going to piss people off, but I want the money. So for that,
That's
I
every
hope he,
actor.
I hope he dies in
It was
Horrible.
better with the stuff he did than most other of the modern
Bullshit.
like
I
there's a
know
lot of
he
it
would have
done.
hired somebody else to do it if he hadn't done it, but he
Well,
could have had
no,
some
Dan Paul.
morals.
A
and
eunuch
said,
is a
you know
castrated
what?
guy.
Yeah.
Aquaman was a blonde white guy, okay?
Yeah.
Always. And he doesn't need to be whatever, anything but that. And they did make at least one movie, I guess, where they got somebody else. And for that,
Yes.
I'm just like, dude, just
down
stand
the
up and say
list.
no. You know what I mean? It's not like you're never going to work again.
Or even request, hey, can I play this other character?
Right. And
Because they can still be in the movie, and
and Cull is a
Yeah.
phenomenal. I just got to read a bunch of Cull. I'll be talking about that
Nice.
tomorrow.
I need to read Solomon Kane and Call, to be honest.
You're
I
in for a
have
treat.
You absolutely.
And
I have the
Brent
Devil
McMorn.
Ray
Don't
books of
forget
them.
Brent McMorn. And
The first
Skullface.
the first books we did were the first two stories of Cull.
And those are the very
Um,
first two stories in the Cull and the Barbarians magazine that only ran for 3 issues, which I'm going to be reading tomorrow.
And number
Um,
3 has Red Sonja's first origin. But I'll be right back.
But as a side note, what did you have any other questions about
Yeah, I did.
Clemson?
The
Yeah.
first one is, will you recommend this novel? And I'm going to start with Justin. Will you recommend this to anybody who's a aspiring D&D player or role player?
Yeah. This is the one I would definitely, if you're into like fantasy and you're okay with older stuff, that I'd unconditionally say check this out.
Okay,
It's a fun little
that's
story.
high praise from Justin. If you guys know Justin, that's
I hate everything. Damn you! Get off my lawn.
very generous.
Stop
very
breathing my air. Close your eyes. I don't want you looking at me. Or anything
And I
else.
don't know about that, Jason. The whole dreadlocks thing. Conan didn't have dreadlocks. He was never depicted that way.
No, he had
I don't think
straight,
that there were dreadlocks in the movie. They were like his hair was just like
frizzy.
unclean.
It-
Right? It was
it-
just
but
like
that's
he
the
had,
other thing.
He had
Is
some things beat.
Conan always had that perfect Prince Valiant haircut. Everything red. And
When freaking Verzetta was painting him, of course he did.
60-40
But
maybe.
he's always described in the books as well as having sleek, long, straight hair. European
And
style
close
hair.
cropped of the bangs,
Yeah,
that full
yeah,
on Prince Valiant haircut. That's Conan to me. Um,
yeah.
Dark Knight, you gonna recommend this one?
I would, yeah, honestly, although I prefer Conan, I would more readily recommend this as a first read because it's its own standalone story. Whereas with Conan, you have to read a lot of it. This one is just a nice, easy, digestible. Here, if you want a complete story of a character, and if you want to understand what alignment is and what paladins, like whatever the Spoonies say, whatever they are,
Mhm.
you read this. None of this. The thing that I think most modern players need to read this because paladins in the modern era are the most misunderstood class of them
Absolutely.
all,
Yep.
and they even Gygax would say in like how alignment works that lawful good doesn't mean lawful nice. And
It's
the
stupid.
thing that paladins do is they no matter what it is, they have to do what's right, whether it will cost them their life or whatever. They have to do it. They have to do it.
That's why my policy is always to kill the paladin first.
Mm. And that's why my policy as a cleric is to bash in the head of anyone who wants to kill the paladin.
Okay, Tanner, how about you?
I think he AFK'd. I don't know if he's back yet. We can ask him when he jumps back.
Oh, I didn't even hear that he was taking off. Okay,
Yeah, he's
well,
just yeah.
okay, I'll go to the next question.
Go
Before
for
Well,
it.
we,
you didn't answer it. You answer it.
Yeah.
would I? Yeah, I probably would, but I would tell people to read other things first.
Okay.
Depends on I would try to get a feel for the person, or if I already do know them, I would steer them either in one of the other four food groups. If you're thinking scoundrel, Fafford and Grey Mouser, fighter, Conan,
Hmm.
magic user. Honestly, I would probably
Vance, the
go.
Vance, the dying earth.
No, I would probably go with Magician Apprentice, even though it's not on the Appendix N.
I mean, you could even go with Elric of Mount Lebanon as well, kind of.
Yeah, but he was the epitome of the multi-classed elf
Hmm.
character that
Yeah, that's fair. That's true.
uh,
I was about
Um,
to there. I was about to say Hero Destine for a cleric, but he's also a multi-classer, a ranger cleric. But if you
mm,
like
I
anyone
would
who
say
says
perhaps
no clerics in,
I would say that the cleric is best represented because it's not in the Appendix N. Because even
that's what I meant.
when
There's
Albert
3 or 4
was
clerics in
Arneson was
Appendix N.
making them, you'd look at Hammer Horror like
Oh,
Van
absolutely.
Helsing. Yeah,
And
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
telling you is, there's several stories with clerics, including the High Crusade, which, by Justin's request, I think we should read after Sign of the Unicorn.
maybe,
Fair
maybe,
Um,
enough.
maybe.
Fair enough.
Another one I might recommend for Magic user, believe it or not, would be the Earthsea trilogy. Ged was a very, very
Yep,
interesting Magic user, except that he was literally, in my opinion, a
that's on the
first and
list,
third
right?
level ranger before he became a
true.
Magic user. It's not on
Oh,
the. It's not on the list.
It's on the,
What story is
yeah,
this?
yes,
The
Earthsea, Earthsea.
the Earthsea trilogy.
Earthseer.
Um,
Earthsea
they're
Cave.
more
Okay.
psychics than magic users, but Andre Norton's Witch World has quite a few lady wizards.
I don't
There's
think we could find it. We
But
looked,
but
we
we
couldn't
will
find it.
say we were going to ask you this, Tanner. Would you
oh,
recommend this? Would you recommend this to? Like, you asked the question, son. You can answer. You
Yeah,
can say it
yeah.
better than I can.
Tanner, you missed it. Standard question I always ask: would you recommend
absolutely.
this to an aspiring young potential D&D player?
Absolutely, because while it's not like completely this is how the setting is, this gives you a great snapshot of the world, the tone, at least in the vanilla game, of course. Some of the classes and races, the quest format, random
Mm.
encounters, the picaresque nature, how combat works, how magic works, almost everything. This is,
It,
and also if you like this story or dislike this story, you can kind of go in a few directions. So like I'm not even acknowledging that. Although yes, Witch World does need some sugar.
Yeah,
Like if you like,
Earthsea does suck,
say,
and Ursula Gwynn sucks even harder, even though she's dead. Fuck that bitch. But it did
the
have some
cleric is
interesting
supposed to be more
stuff in it.
restricted.
What's your problem with the hippie?
Well, you answered your own question there. Although I
Yeah.
should note that Norman Spinrad, who is way more crazy left than she ever was, one time called her an eco-authoritarian or an eco-fascist or something like that. Which
Hey, don't
honestly,
badmouth eco-fascists. They're going
are
to
you
save
one?
us all.
Probably.
Yeah. What,
No,
like,
are you kidding me?
he's got to defend. He's got to defend his political tribe of fascism. You know, he's got to do it.
He's got his.
I'm
He's
a
got his,
national socialist. Get it right.
he's
Well,
got
let me
his.
put it
It's the
this way with
same fucking
Spinrad.
thing.
It's
No,
like
Justin's
there are
wearing
differences.
his
They're all
Nuke the
socialist
Whales.
and pinkos anyway, so I don't care.
Justin's wearing his Nuke the Whales T-shirt under his polo as we speak.
Mm.
The next question I probably should have asked first before the last one.
Well, I wasn't quite done.
I'm
Oh,
Almost
yeah,
sorry.
go
Go
for
done
it.
ahead.
though. It's like if you like this, then like if you like how the elves are presented, go with these ones. If you like the like stars, heard nothing, saw nothing, spoke nothing.
Oh my fuck, Justin.
By the way, did
Oh,
I
I
mention I'm actually
disavow
Jewish?
that. I completely disavow the pinko position right there.
It's not, you don't even know the words you're saying, what they mean.
Mr. Mossad agent, I categorically disavow Justin right here. You know,
Yeah, but that's not a like.
Well, fuck it. What was the other question? I already answered it earlier. Fuck it.
yeah.
Sorry, Tanner. Sorry. We do this. This is going to be a regular
Oh, I
thing.
know. I'm cool with it. And anything that gives
Oy
you a
vey.
headache, but I want to
Just
finish
say
the
oy vey.
questions, don't I,
I'm
Justin?
going to let you
Now,
go
what is the
first.
second question?
I'm going to let you go first because you got cut off
Oh,
not
boy.
just once, but multiple times.
Well,
Tanner,
it's funny.
what are you going to steal or have you stolen from this story to add to your role playing games?
Almost everything.
Mm.
Which I know is not much of an answer, but if you want something more specific, definitely helps me run the elves a bit better. Definitely gonna do that sort of their instincts are for whim, even ones they don't understand. Definitely the emphasis on how unusual the flora and fauna is, because he mentions we got jaguars, lions, bears,
You know, right?
wolves, and hawks and kingfishers,
I mean,
all in the same area, but we're nowhere near India.
the side note is the way the elves react to like Alienor and Hughie is almost like how like druids like speak with animals or can calm animals. Maybe you can use that as well, which I kind of liked.
I would not be adverse to the heat dagger, which we didn't. I don't think we mentioned, or
The
Cortana
sun
being
dagger?
Well, actually,
thing you can
that's the thing
find.
that irked me. Why didn't Holgar use the dagger of burning on the fucking troll?
Because that came in the rewrite, probably.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
and I like the way he did because he's always like pondering it, like wondering what the fuck it is.
And then he uses on the Nixie, and then immediately after that, fights the fucking troll, and doesn't bring.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it's like
Like-
you realize, oh, I can burn it, and I have this thing that's a
It's
magical
probably
dagger plus one of
adapted.
burning.
Because it would suck, but like in a modern adaptation, Holger's first thought would be, "Oh shit!" Pull out dagger, press it right against the troll, start frying it.
Stab, 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 stab.
Yeah.
So, Dark Knight, what are you going to swipe from this?
Dagger of burning.
Yeah, the dagger burning is one, legit. The way that mounts behave for paladins, because most just treat them as just basically horses, when they are expressly like almost intelligent creatures.
Yeah.
The way elves behave, like Tanner said, the law versus chaos argument, which is why I think three-pronged alignment is superior. Justin, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I don't care
disagree
one
with
way.
that.
I don't like alignment. Period.
We'll live.
It's
I
whatever.
like the 9-point.
I don't hate the 9-point alignment, but I just prefer 3. But
For me, it adds a lot more nuance to people who aren't so one thing or another.
well, I don't treat alignment as a morality system because even in the conceit of Moorcock and in Paul Anderson, they don't treat it as a morality system. That came on later for the wargaming aspect in first edition. So I don't treat alignment as a morality. I treat it more like a
I
religion.
absolutely do because of the restrictions that so many of the AD&D characters had: monk, bard, thief, assassin. paladin, ranger. They had to follow this code of conduct, and the 9 point gives it a little more nuance and a little more wiggle room, so that the characters can do the thing, but not be so predictable.
I don't know. I'm just more of a. I think my mindset. I'm more of a gamist sort of gamer rather than like worrying about like the world building minutia and narrativism. But that's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, I know by
But
contrast, I'm very big on having 9 cosmic forces all vying for supremacy, and you and your opponents are their pawns. And sometimes you can
Yeah,
surprise them.
yeah.
well,
Even in
I
my
see. I don't. I think my main point is I don't view. I view like I take a more of a like a Western Christian traditional view of law, in that law and goodness are ontological, and evil is what happens when when you deprive yourself of lawfulness.
Well, that's
Like,
absolutely
hey,
fair.
yeah. That's why I take the view that I do. Where if you strive to be lawful in all, that's why in the game, like I told you, Shadow, I'm not letting players choose alignments. It's going to be assumed if you're a player character in my game, you're on the side of law because the things you're fighting are like Cthulhu monsters, like severely depraved, like werewolves and vampires, like things that are.
might I interest you in
Go.
my 5 point alignment system?
Yeah, I've heard that Gygax did a 5 point alignment
That would
system
be
as
in the
well.
rules box.
That in my
It was also
Gygax,
in a strategic review as well, if I remember
Oh,
correctly.
your play-by post. I gotta get my new orders in.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. I need to actually play more of your game, Shadow. Like, if you do start up that Amber game, I will happily join in. But keep me
yeah,
posted on that.
you're absolutely one of the first 2 or 3 people that will be invited to
Hell
that.
yeah! But
When I run the Amber game,
I
just
So, Justin,
hmm?
what would you take from this novel, if anything?
I said
you Dungeon
earlier,
Minister.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh,
And yes, I love this one too.
like
Oh,
way at
Fleetwood's
the
reading
beginning.
it. What's he thinking so far?
Damn, there was something I thought of earlier, but I
Shoot,
forget
I'm
what it
sorry.
was now.
Was
Oh
it a
no, this is way
critter?
back in the beginning of the
Yeah.
conversation. The reassembling the graphic detail of the
The troll.
guts.
Okay,
That
for
was
more
nice.
coordinating.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah. I think I will agree with Tanner. There probably would be everything because this is almost like a setting book in a way, which is
Mhm.
what I kind of liked about it.
Believe it or not, the one thing that of all the things that because I consider myself to have used a whole bunch of this stuff, even though I just read the book, listened to the book recently for the first time. The thing I
Mhm.
liked, I think, the most was sort of that interaction and humor with the what was he called? You guys were talking about him earlier.
The
The
dwarf.
salesman, the magic potion guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Markness. I love. Yeah, Markness was funny.
You know, that sort of modern day sort of commercial humor when it
Mhm.
came
Mm.
to
And look,
party discount, that sort of thing.
I ask you to bring more of that into our game on Sundays. That's my biggest complaint. If you're gonna take that from this book, fucking actually take it from the book. Like I've been asking you to for over a year.
When you've got a party as big as mine, you have to understand that I've got a whole lot of people to,
Break it up again. 10-minute segments. 10
This
minutes,
ain't
10
fifth
with
edition,
round
Hosehead.
structure. Rounds.
yeah.
Fucking
Well,
rounds.
even doing that, there are people who really have
Cut them
no
off. Get a little fucking
interest.
egg timer.
No, have no interest in as hardcore role playing as you and I would like to see. Um,
Then have them do freaking training montages during their segments.
It's cool,
They
Father.
can fight, they can
If
fight with a
the
dummy or something.
all right, we're getting, I mean, sillier than usual. But is there any final notes? And shall we? We know we're going to do Sign of the Unicorn next. I've already started that one. But
Mm.
absolutely.
are we for
Fortunately, I
sure?
have that in book. I have
Yes.
that in paperback form. So.
We'll
I know
figure
we
it
usually
out
like
at the
to
end
break
of
it.
next
I know we
cycle.
usually like to break it up, but I'm more than willing to finish up Anderson with High Crusade afterwards. I was thinking change Broken Lands, but I'm willing to do one more Anderson if you guys are.
Well,
Yeah,
let's see how we
I'm down for
feel
it.
after Amber,
Yeah.
because
All right,
that's
all
a
right.
Yeah.
month away.
So 2 weeks from now, we do Amber.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now we're going to do Sign of the Unicorn, and Hopefully, Raven will join us for that one because she's joined us for all of the Amber. Uh,
Yeah.
if
I
not,
didn't realize if I'd known that you were doing like you did. I thought you were doing Guns of Avalon or later on. If I'd known, I would have joined. I'm sorry about that,
it's
Shadow.
okay. It's okay, and it is my favorite of the first five Amber books. But no worries because we will probably. I don't know if we're going to do the second Amber series or not. We'll
Well,
see
at
because there's
least
a
do the
whole lot
first.
more to get to with everybody else. And after Sign of the Unicorn, we probably won't touch back on Zelazny for a good 6 months.
Yeah, I've
We
heard mixed things about the Merlin saga. To be honest.
yeah, me too.
I think we
And
should finish. I think we should finish the first five before the year is out. Personally,
Yeah.
we can see about that. I'm not opposed to that because it just gets better and better as it goes along. But yeah, let's finish up with the final thoughts. Anything, Justin?
Uh, read the book. Don't read the book. I don't care. It's not going to hurt me any.
Okay, DK.
uh, no, I think I've said my piece. I think I'm good.
I got one more thing.
Amber Alert.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I got one more thing. Stay away from the jail bait.
Yeah,
Well, he
yeah,
knew that. He's married.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Unless you're under
No.
17 and a half.
From the movie or
Oh,
the
okay.
book.
What was that? What was that from again?
What was what from?
I thought that was like you were saying a quote from a film or something, and I'm just like,
No, because he doesn't know if the girl's 18 or not.
Yeah, it's
fair enough.
just assume the worst and move on. You know,
Yeah, I don't care if she can turn into a swan. Just say no.
that reminds me of the classic Leonardo DiCaprio joke. Uh, Leonardo and is sitting in his car, and
By the time the movie's over, his character, his girlfriend is too old for him.
Mhm.
no. He's sitting in his car, and a police officer taps on his windows. Oh my God, it's you. What are you doing here, parked out here? It's just kicking back, and he notices there's a girl in the back seat texting away, and he's like, "Who are you?" And she gives her name, and like, "How old are you?" And Leonardo goes, "Well, in about 45 minutes, she's going to be 18."
Jesus.
And he totally says to a
Oh,
cop too. He totally would
yeah.
because he can.
I mean, he's got fuck you money. What do you expect?
Yeah.
You know,
I
whatever.
haven't pissed off an exec yet. You can't throw me in jail.
Mm.
Yeah. That is weird. We never touched on her being a lycanthrope, but just a swan of
Kinda.
all things.
Well, she's not. No, she's not a lycanthrope in that she's like what's a skinwalker? Like there's in
Yeah,
European
she
myth where
grows
people
on
have
the
items
hide and it
that can.
becomes
She has a magic item basically that lets her turn into a swan. It's not a curse.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
she's a what you call a druid.
Yeah,
a
yeah,
ranger.
or you could say, or a skinwalker. You could say that it's just a magic item.
Well, something else that absolutely confirms your deliberate subversion is that in the what I read, it mentions that she either lost or handed down the swan robe, so she can't even do that anymore. And that's always sort of a nerf like that is always a bit of a red flag. That's always means someone wanted to kick it down.
They wanted to give it to the Mary Sue, basically.
Well, this is 10 years ago, so this is a year or two before they started the Mary Sue thing.
Oh
Well,
no,
actually,
dude,
no.
Mary
It's been
Sue's been
around for a
around for a
while.
while.
I meant when they started pushing that in proper
Yes,
Popularizing
media.
it,
we
yeah.
have, Jason. We have.
Wording is very important. Very important.
Yeah?
So Tanner, final thoughts.
Think I said most of them and drove most of you crazy.
Okay.
I would say, yeah, there's definitely Anderson. I don't love every single book, but 80% of them I've walked away with either happy or really happy. He's a really gifted writer. He's gifted a lot to this game.
Mm-hmm.
I was very, very impressed. And yeah, if you want a better summer blockbuster than a lot of summer blockbusters, listen to that audiobook, man. It's the best way to
Yeah.
experience story.
I thank you for the movie recommendation you gave me on Discord. I plan on watching that immediately.
Are you roasting me or? Oh no. Okay, so you're probably bullshitting me, but I need to make this clear. If we do read the High Crusade,
Don't
so
watch the
this
movie,
actually
but
did
I'm
have a
going to
movie
watch the
adaptation in
movie.
the '90s, and it is god awful. It absolutely gets the humor wrong. A lot of great actors are wasted. It's very
But
undercooked,
it's got
and
Gimli in it.
I was about to say that's why I said by great actors who are wasted. And apparently, Poul Anderson saw 10 minutes and laughed off the movie.
When he just walked out, that's hilarious.
Or I think it was directed VHS actually, but he like laughed after 10 minutes of watching this, turned it off. Yeah, this is terrible.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's
So,
hilarious.
so for me, folks, this was fun. It was a good
Mm-hmm.
listen. I don't know. I'm glad. No offense, Tanner, but I had ordered this book on it from a guy on eBay, and after a week, he still hadn't sent it. And I'm like, I've got the audio. I just canceled the order, and I probably won't reorder it. And if I find it in a pile of books or something like that,
Fair.
and I can do it right then, there, and now. But to pay 15 for this one, not gonna really do that. It was
Oh,
fun.
Mr. Dungeon Mister, no worries, it's your money. Honestly, I think I got my copy for like $2 or $3. I don't feel Dungeon Mister. What I mean by wasted, I mean as in you've got great actors saying inane dialogue and being directed very poorly. Although I'm certain,
Wasted
given how
potential, basically.
yeah, wasted potential. Although it's possible that one or two actors was easing their pain a little bit on set.
I mean, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I mean, there's that
I don't
scene.
know.
It's like that scene from Empire Strikes Back where when Han meets his friend from Cloud City.
Lando,
The
yeah.
reason why he's all like out of his fucking mind is because he was mainlining heroin or not heroin, cocaine.
Oh
He was
dear.
he was high. He was high as a fucking kite in that
Who
scene.
was?
Fucking Harrison Ford. Yeah, the guy playing Han Solo.
Yeah,
He even admits this.
Terry was on cocaine too.
Or was he drunk? It was something like that. He was either drunk or high. I don't remember.
I know
What's
he had
his
the
name?
runs when he was in Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah.
What's his name that played Gimli there? I can't remember his name.
John
Rhys Davies?
Rhys Davies!
Yeah, he was a fan of extracurricular drugs and alcohol.
You don't
during
say.
The 80s and
Played a
90s.
dwarf.
What an actor likes
yeah.
getting drunk and high. You don't.
has always been celebrated for its excellence, Dungeon Minister. There's a California champagne by Paul Masson, inspired by that same French excellence. Is fermented.
Speaking of Orson, did anybody else hear what was that movie? This Island Earth, or that horrible conspiracy?
This Island
theory
Earth's
movie?
actually really good.
I mean, speaking of Owen Wilson, I'm actually listening to the Shadow audio drama that he did.
Good for you. Always a good.
So I'm actually
The
using
remake?
that the original like drama from like the 30s. Yeah, I'm using the way that they tweak the Shadow to be like illusionists. Like that would be how I imagine like Phantasmal Force, like illusion spells essentially. I think it's kind of cool. Now of course for the drama they had to make that concession because you can't have the hero killing kids on radio for some reason.
Oh,
Yeah, so he had to basically make them kill themselves or whatever.
Yeah. The Shadow was brutal. Just saying.
Oh
yes.
yeah.
Guns blazing. But yeah,
Batman with a backbone.
if we're finished up with
You
Three
think?
Hearts, Three Lions, I will see you guys in 2 weeks' time.
All right.
See you in 2 weeks, guys.
Actually, I'll see you sooner than that, Tanner.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks for having me, Shadow. It was great being back, man.
Pleasure, guys. Justin and I are going to stick around if anybody wants to come in or leave. Like I said, have a great weekend.
See you guys. Bye bye.
party on.
Take care, man. This was fun.
Yeah.
And I'll keep you posted on any of the things I think you'll be interested in.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I'll see you in 2 weeks, man. Bye bye.
Take care. Dungeon Minister, yes, well played. His portrayal of the brain was I know it wasn't him, but that was just
The
one of
brain.
those things that most people, especially now watching it, would have no idea that that's who that was or that's who that character was, you know, trying to sound like. But fortunately, some of us, although I don't know who Pinky was, if he was based on anybody other than. Uh,
What's his name? Andy Griffin, I think. Am I thinking, or is it Fred Astaire?
no,
One of
it was
those like
definitely not
comedy
Andy.
guys. One of those comedy guys from that period. One of the like, I'm tripping over myself guys.
Okay.
Uh, Maurice LaMarche. Maybe Pinky and the Brain, brain.
Mhm.
What are we doing tonight, Brian? The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Trying to
Trying
take
to.
over the world.
Yeah, that was some of the best, uh, adult slash kid cartoon safe humor before it got all really really woke and stuff. I want to say before woke was woke, but that was like for me that was
Yeah,
like the end. Everything after that, I could see these things come creeping in, and that was just good old fashioned, very reminiscent of Marx Brothers humor. Anybody could watch it, and nothing was too in your face kind of
yeah. These
humor.
these these two guys get out of their cage. They try some zany plot and it fails miserably because, well, it was come up by a guy with a brain this big, and then they end up back in their cage.
Yep. But even like the Animaniacs and some of the other characters that were on that show, still had you
Yeah,
know safe for work humor. Let's just put it, family friendly. A couple of little, boy girl kind of, uh,
yeah,
stuff, but nothing, crazy. Um,
yeah.
this book was a good example of some of that as well. Back when you could, be funny and you didn't have to go into certain areas to do so. Now it's all about shock and things like that. I know, just sounding older by the minute, but you know,
Oh,
when
yeah.
you have kids, you've got to kind of like get hyper focused about that stuff and really pay attention to what your little ones might absorb. That you have to explain later.
Yeah,
Uh,
or you end up with a degenerate like this guy, and you don't want that
yeah, he's
because
not
then
all
he'll
that.
be end up calling some guy 20 years older than him gay every 20 minutes, three to four, 5 times a week,
It,
3 to 6 times a
you
week.
were less on it today, but I
I'm
guess.
tired. I also got
So
to
hey,
put.
I don't know if what you thought of these.
Yeah, they're okay.
Squirrel Hermit turned me on to another company that does the same thing. So I'm going to
But
check some
cheaper.
of those out because they actually sell them individually, which was one of my suggestions. And they had some of the stamps that I also suggested, which will also be helpful, I hope. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Three Hearts, Three Lions is pretty okay. It's
mhm.
better than most of the books we've read.
I don't know that I would go. I don't know. I had a lot of fun with the last one,
Yes,
even though it
but
was, you know,
coherent story.
even though it was a hot mess, it was still fun. I had a little more fun with that one than this one, but
Yeah, yes. Well, that's why the Lynn Carter scale exists.
mhm.
Depends on how fun he writes, not how competently he
Yeah.
writes.
Speaking of which, Grammaticus contacted me again today, so I'm gonna do. Even though Tanner really wanted me to review Vampirella, tomorrow I'm gonna do the Cull books that I picked up
Yeah.
instead, just because I don't want to keep him waiting. and I would like to continue the conversation. Plus, they were really
Yeah.
damn good. They were better than the Vampirella. To be honest,
Yeah.
the Vampirella book uh, is not going to get the glowing review that a lot of people would expect because there was very little Vampirella in it. She was relegated to mostly a mascot for her own magazine. It wasn't about her. It was just a bunch of short stories, which were most of them kind of mediocre, considering the time, 1964, 65 writing. It was, not as good as I'd hoped. But the Cull magazines that I got, the first one is just pure right out of the book. Just like it's not verbatim word for word, but the events that transpire are right out of the book. And for me, I kind of want to say I almost like Cull a little more than Conan, uh, because it's less, of a long ass journey to what I call the sweet spot, which when he's actually the king, King Conan, whereas
Yeah.
Cull kind of starts out real early as fucking king, excuse my French, and then bigger and more intriguing events are transpiring. Plus, it's got the snake lizardmen in right there immediately as the bad guys.
So
I
you're saying when I get around to writing my not Conan character again because
uh,
I have to like restructure everything, um, I should put more lizard men in it.
yes, absolutely, or snake men or both. Have the snake men and the lizard men not like each other, and you got three different factions. Oh,
Yeah.
real quick, what was the name of the character?
The one that I was gonna have,
Yeah.
uh, Korgath, and then the
Oh,
one that it turned out was like Korgoth. So I was like,
okay.
that
Well,
that name's got to go.
didn't you have a character like Reynard?
Yeah, I have another one, Renard.
Okay, because
But
that's one of the characters that's in one of the
that's a
stories.
real name though. So
Yeah. Well, so is Conan.
no, this is,
Okay.
it
That,
is
that,
now.
that's that 7 foot gawky weirdo. Late night isn't a real. Yeah, you're right. He's not real. He's fake. He's like a Disney animatronic, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah,
Oh,
it did.
yeah, no, but isn't it spelled differently?
I don't think so.
The Irish name or the Scottish name? Yeah,
And no,
yeah.
agreed.
And it's
Dungeon
also a
Master.
last name, right? That's his surname. It's not his first name.
I thought his last name was O'Brien.
Is it?
Yeah, Conan O'Brien. Yeah, big, tall, 7 foot gawky weirdo.
I don't pay attention to that guy that
You take
often,
care,
man.
Dungeon Minister.
Yeah,
Love the last video, the little short about the call. That actually
I want
was actually really good for as short as it was.
I want a world where this individual does not exist. Not Dungeon Minister, the gawky 7 foot tall guy. Can we do that?
Can we do what?
Get rid of this O'Brien character.
I have no way to help facilitate that.
You got to work on that, man.
There's a lot of things that
We
go wrong.
gotta have a conspiracy out in the open here, so the feds can watch us, and then we obviously did not roleplay removing Conan O'Brien from the game board. It's coded language. You see that?
Yeah.
uh,
So no show for you tomorrow. Sorry. I mean, if you want to have a show without me,
nah. We moved it to Wednesdays. Reiterating, starting next week, no Wednesday shows on my show. Shadow needs time to write and not be gay, I guess. I don't
yeah,
know.
I have a lot of things I need to do, and summer vacation starts tonight. So me and the boy are gonna try and spend some time together and do some things. And I've got a dentist appointment tomorrow, so yay!
Yeah, and it gave me the excuse to not do a show. I
It's
would
right.
do one with Raven, but She's
Yeah, I don't know where she is.
she's still by
Uh,
the side of the road fixing a
I
tire
hope
or
not.
something.
She said she would join us in chat. Jackie got home early today, like extra early, so we spent some time together, and hopefully I'll get more chances to do that before summer just zips by. Because, like I was saying, this could be his last summer at home. Could be, probably not, but I know, like, for me, 17 years old was like one of my greatest years. I had a lot of fun, did a lot of
Yeah.
things I shouldn't have. But
Uh,
like high school wise, uh, even though this will be his senior year, for me, I was a junior at 17, so there was no pressure for him. There's going to be a ton of pressure because it is his senior year.
yeah. And then he's got to go join the Israeli Defense Force or whatever, right? So
I have no idea what he's planning on doing, but he's only got a year and counting to figure it out, or get a shitty job here in this podunk town that we live in with no future.
yeah, shouldn't be so pessimistic.
Now, I was just talking to a friend of mine who's been out here longer than I have, and there's not a lot of opportunities. Uh,
Yeah, that's everywhere. You guys shipped all your industry overseas and then wondered where all your industry went.
he wouldn't be uh, inclined to take a job like that. He's got a lot of talent, but not there. Sure, we all have to have those first couple of jobs that we quit after a couple of weeks, flipping burgers or whatever. But
Um, the main problem the boy has is his like hate on for modern technologies because like all that industry is going towards like utilizing that even if it's just for marketing or whatever, right?
well, you know what
Like
my thought
AI
is
is.
on that, Omen.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not so much. I mean, because he's learning to code and things like that. It's just he likes bringing the religious.
Which is like insane. Like
Just that AI is the devil. He likes pulling that card out, and uh,
it's
I went through that same phase with computers when I was young. I know exactly how and what he's thinking when it comes to
yeah.
that. He's in there, creating animated shorts and things like that. The one that he just did was incredible uh, for his age, you know, and the subject matter and the voices and getting all the people together. If he, really pushes toward it, he can come up with something that's all his, and he's, in charge, and you know, he can
Mhm.
make a bright future for himself. Agree, Omen.
Uh,
But you know how it is being a teenager, and these days, uh, there's got to be like a an actual need. Like right now, he's never worried about money. He never had to. And
it's not a good mentality to instill in your child. You know that,
right,
right?
yeah, yeah. Well, it wasn't me per se. He had other family that I don't even speak the same language, so I really had no part in it. But uh, he's gonna have to come across like a need, one way or the other, that's going to drive him to join the rat race at least for a little while, to do all the hard things that one must do to fully grow up, and tell him as much as I want. Since I'm his dad, I don't know anything. I'm always going to be wrong until he realizes I was right the whole time, and then he can deal with that. He can work the farm fields, sure, he'd fit right in. But within about a week, he would be, forming a union, and then he'd end up in a ditch somewhere. Just saying.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't know about you, Justin, but I had a ton of really crappy jobs.
I had a few. I had a few.
Yeah, my first
None of them were as soul crushing as my current one, though.
the first one I had, I was 13, cutting cypress trees down for $20 a day and a hamburger. The next, and that was under the table. The next one I had to get a work permit so that I could help the family make some money. And I was working phone soliciting, phone sales for timeshares and policemen's ball tickets and all kinds of just, oh God, that's the worst job ever. Just sitting there, you know, cold calling a list of names for 8 hours. Just oh,
Yeah.
but it did have a silver lining when I was working that job. After a couple of days working it, I kept a pad of paper with me, and I would start writing down things because all I had was this list of names, and I would come across names that would like inspire me for NPCs and characters in my RPG sessions. I would start coming up with ideas, and I'd be writing this shit down as I was working, and every day I'd come home with a couple of sheets of ideas. Yeah.
Sorry, I just saw a really good 3D printable dice tower on Reddit, but there's no link to it. No link to where I. Yeah, I'm gonna bring up the image. Uh,
Oop, we've got.
the link to
Oh, welcome to the
the
show, Logan.
image.
I didn't see you there.
No,
Come on
I
in.
just popped in. No, you're joking about your son. I mean, I have to worry about
Yeah.
my son too doing stuff, and it's like, but boy, you got to learn how to work hard because if I even the jobs I enjoyed, I knew they weren't going to go anywhere, so I still had to improve myself.
Yeah.
That's
No.
kind of cool, Justin.
Yeah,
I don't
but
like
Yeah.
the brown.
what?
I don't like
It's-
the brown for the creature, but it's still pretty cool.
no. This is just distinguishing the parts in the model.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah. It's the render. But no, it's like why wouldn't the person posting this put a link so I could go buy the fucking thing?
I know there's some weird things about. I don't know. Sometimes you're like, if you're going to be advertising, advertise to sell and make it easy to buy your stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I know, and I need to set up my account for the Monster Apocalypse, which was the failed Kickstarter, but Privateer Press said if you backed it, that they were going to give you the STLs, so then you could print your own out, which I thought was pretty cool of them to do because they didn't have to do that. And I
No, they
set
can
it
just
up.
go down as one more failed Kickstarter.
Well, it was a third party that didn't fulfill it. My point is that Privateer Press didn't have any obligation to the people that were part of that Kickstarter, and they still decided to give the STLs away to anyone that backed it, which I think is pretty cool on their part.
Yeah.
Because what they could have done is said, hey, you know what, we're out of the, and they're out of the miniature business for the most part. They're just an IP holding company now, and they have another third party doing it. And so,
Yeah. What was the from what I understand, like the big thing with those is you overextend. Like the thing that kills most of those projects is they promise too much and then
well, and the problem really with Monolith, well, it was what was it called? It wasn't Monolith. Monolith is doing fine. It was the other one. They not only did they overextend, they were then paying for the next. They're doing another Kickstarter to pay for the one that they still owed, and so they were doing that. Yeah,
that happened with that one company you keep talking about. Is they promised so much, and then it was so much more than the actual money brought in, because they don't count the unforeseen things, right?
Oh yeah.
And then the next thing they brought out had to be bigger and better because nobody would want it if it wasn't as big and badass. So you end up with something that is just as much of a sinkhole as the previous thing, but you've got to pay for this and that to fill in the hole you dug with the previous thing. So maybe you had 10% void in the previous one, but now you've got 20 to 30% in this hole to fill up that one and what you've lost in this project, and the next one comes along to try and fill in this hole.
Well,
And like it snowballs, right? Because
well, it's not just that. Is you may assume that you can get a low enough per unit price by overprinting too, and so then
yes,
that screws you as well. It's like, well, it'll cost me half as much to print 5,000 copies per copy as it would 1,000. So I'll try doing that, even
and
though I only have 1,500.
you end up putting the production cost into credit,
Yep.
which most of them do, and that's what killed TSR. Is they were doing exactly that, and then they tried like using the printing
Oh
system
yeah.
as like a collateral based banking system because they saw that loophole, and like it ended up fucking the company even more.
But it's not. But that time period, and a lot of people forget, is the number of companies that went bankrupt. I think Game Designers Workshop went bankrupt around that time. Several of them went bankrupt around that time. It was just a, and I'm not even saying they necessarily overdid it. It's just you can only expand so much before you have too much product to support. And,
yes,
that's
and when you start trying to diversify away from your clientele, like 90% of the time you're just killing your business, not getting more clients.
well. To be fair, and for like TSR had a lot of different stuff for games and everything else. But
Yeah, their logo was on a lot of stuff.
and we're talking board games. We're not even talking. And the board games, like I remember one of them where you played giant. What was it? You played a giant penguin. Everyone had like a different monster, and it had different things that you could load up on the penguin. Yeah, I mean they had a lot of different. I use the penguin as an example, but basically it was very similar to what you would have nowadays with King of Tokyo, almost.
Well, what I mean diversify from your core audience is not like release other things that are separate from your core product that other people will buy that also has your brand on it. I mean, like change the thing people are already buying to try to appeal to more people when it's already.
Yeah. In other words, instead of creating a new product to appeal to a new group, you try changing your core product so you lose both your old group and you have a hard time attacking your new one. A perfect example is now, of course, it's in TSR. well, we were saying D&D, but look at 4E. 4E lost a huge number where people refused to move over.
Well, that is D&D. I don't care about this like new edition, different game thing. It's like it's got the words D&D on the Dungeons and Dragons on the cover, so it's Dungeons and Dragons. Because to the layman going into the store, they see the name, right? Like 90% of books are sold by the cover art and nothing else. So the cover art is what people recognize with your title.
I mean, the problem that I have with 4E really is they should have advertised it as a skirmish game, and they didn't. They advertised a role playing game, and
there was this integrated VTT that was supposed to be released with it, but then the designer killed his wife, and
wow,
the project got shelved.
Well, I'm going to say this much: it was such a divergence. As much as people complain about the divergence between 2E and 3, and this happens every time. Every time there's an edition, certain people don't want to change the new edition, so you're always going to lose that. You hope you get enough audience for the new one.
Well,
and
there was
for 4E. 4E was a completely different game. I mean,
there was a lot of intended mechanical things that were supposed to be taken out of the player's hands and done through automation.
No, I bought the a year subscription to TSR at the time. I understand that, but what I'm saying is
that product that was supposed to do that never got launched.
Well, that's because
finished.
That's because not enough people were going over. Well, it wasn't
the designer literally killed his wife, and they cut the project and gutted the department because of it.
Well, it was more than just that, is what I'm saying. Is even with that, is if there was enough impetus, they would have still kept it. But the problem was, is people didn't switch over. They switched over from 3 to Pathfinder rather than going to
Mhm.
4. And so you lost a lot of audience for that. It's
A huge amount.
Well,
Pathfinder
yeah.
was had some potential to, you know,
kill the
far.
game, kill the company, but they didn't have the capital behind them because the multinational corporation, but also they then started fucking rules piling and
But yeah, but I mean, come
yeah,
on. As much as we talk about this, every system does that.
yes,
As we
but
go through,
it kills every system too.
well,
So
but what I'm saying for this is when I was doing, because I did the 4E and I went, this is not a role playing game. Like there were no rules for how to interact like with charisma or anything. You're like, well, how's this supposed to even be arbitrated? It was kind of it would have done fine if they had
Sorry,
advertised it as
Jose.
D&D the skirmish game. That if they had done that, that would have done really well. And if they kept it for like hero clicks and for the few of the others, I think it would have worked out a lot better. But they didn't. They it was it
I've
was a
honestly never read any 4E anything.
it
I know.
I still have the starter box set
it's not a bad game. It's just
in the
not
closet.
D&D in any way, shape, or feel. It's just yeah.
I did not unpunch any of the tokens or anything. It's all still. It's like besides the dice missing from the set, it's pristine.
Oh well, that's hey, you might be able to sell it for some money there, Justin. That's
Hmm.
but no, I mean,
I think I paid $17.50 for it.
hey,
Imagine buying a box set for that little today.
actually, if you look even for the 5e, it was $20 for the box set
Yeah,
when it came
you can
out.
get the if you go into like Walmart, you can get a 5E starter for about that. Maybe,
Okay, okay.
It's
but
well, remember this is the
very
That's
very.
definitely
lost
a
leader. It's a
lost.
lost
Yeah,
leader. It's
yeah. Because like, what are the box sets for the what's the company that publishes Morkborg?
free
Free
league.
League.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
They're
What was the box sets for their
between $40 and $50.
okay? Because I was looking at the one with the art that everyone was gushing over, like the high fantasy one.
Uh,
Uh,
well, let's see. You've got. Well, I'm trying to think of which trying to say. There's Dragonbane. There's Forbidden
Dragonbane,
Lands. Okay.
Dragonbane, or Forbidden Lands, either one of them.
I yeah.
I was looking at them and they're like 150 bucks, but maybe it's just Canada, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's Canada because I know that I can go to their website and I think it's like $50. And a lot of times I wait until they have sales, which they should be
Okay.
having a sale coming up. And you, like, I was able to get a lot of their books for half off because they'll do a lot of their books half off during the during June or July.
Okay, so if you see a sale on those, throw me a link and I'll see if I'm in the purchasing mood.
Jose, I took a look at it. I really couldn't tell which of the two it was. It did have some interesting stuff, but at the same time, I didn't like. I don't like cardboard terrain as much as I used to. I'm really less and less a fan of that. Even though, for example, the original Hero Quest sets have stood up, 50 almost 50, 40 years, let's say, and there's still a lot of them out there that are in really nice condition. I'm just leery of any of the newer,
So
cardboard terrain
so
sets.
Dragonbane doesn't. It uses cardboard tokens or for vertical for the monsters, and I've got. I will say this much: when it comes to Free League, when you're buying their stuff, any of their hardbacks, whether it's Alien or anything else, the value is just super high. I mean,
It,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's
In the 4E box set, they were cardboard coins. Like,
okay.
yeah, I hate that. I hate those with a hard passion.
Well, I
It's
mean,
the cheapest form of make do a game, a starter set can give you. At least a standee is a little more immersive than a like you said, a token. Uh, Core Space is kind of like a sci-fi, running
So
around, hiding behind uh,
so
cargo
this is
containers and stuff. Kind of skirmishy game.
so this is Dragonbane. You get a set of dice. You get the cards, which says treasure for this one. You
Yeah.
get some more of these. Then you get standees.
That light behind you is blurring out everything you're showing.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay, it's fine. Well, let me get over here.
Yeah, it made the dice look really neat, but
Yeah,
everything
it
else.
does. But you get standees. You get, I'm sorry, the little things at the bottom. You get the different
Yeah.
monsters, which I actually like. If you could do a skinny minis with these, I think this would work really well. And I know that you like the 3-dimensional, but I like skinny minis because I could throw them into a book and take like 100 of them with me.
Sure.
Yeah.
But these would work well. It comes with, actually, to be fair, and I do like listening to it. It then comes with, so it comes with 2 things of standees, which are pretty good.
The same page though. They're
Yeah, the
two
same art style.
identicals. No, they're identical prints, or are they different?
These are different. So this is the
Okay,
Manicore, and then this is a dragon.
Okay. I was
A
wondering
giant
'cause
spider.
It's
Yeah.
upside down. I was making sure.
No, and I like that aspect of, at least gives players a visual.
Yes.
It comes with a map, which I don't think is too, and the map is fairly good as far
Is it
as
double-sided?
The back side is actually all the backers, but
Oh, okay.
but the front side is actually a pretty good. I mean, this is a nice quality map as far as the feel for the paper.
So
It's not-
yes, Shadow. It's double sided. Just for you.
Yeah. Well,
The other side is pointless unless you're
Well,
a backer.
Looking for your name.
But I mean,
It's only a little bit more significant than having your name in the phone book.
but this is the they
Character
have
sheets.
character sheets for the starters, which I think is nice. They have empty character sheets, so you can make your own, and they have about 5 of those. So and you can always print those off. Here's more of the tactical battle map rather than the world battle map
Okay.
with squares.
Yeah.
And then the core rule book, it has, of course, the adventures for it, and then the core rule book for Dragonbane, which these are actually, for being paperback, these are pretty damn heavy. These are
It's got a glue spine, not stapled.
yeah, these are all glued.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
But what I mean is but the
Perfect binding.
but the card stock or the paper stock is really thick. It's heavy. It's
Yeah.
you're like, wait a minute, this is heavier than some of my other stuff. You've got the if you want to play a solo adventure, which I think is always good for a DM that's just
Beginners.
learning the system. And for a box set, now you can buy the hardback, but it doesn't include all the other stuff. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. So that's this one. The one for Forbidden Lands has 2 hardback books in it, and it has something similar. I like the fact that you include it's everything that you need to do if it's your first role playing game, which I think is nice.
Yeah, the only
What
thing I
your
didn't
starter
like
box
was,
should be.
the character sheets aren't black and white, so there's going to be an issue reprinting them.
I have a color printer. You can just do that. It's not that hard. Color printers are not that hard nowadays to find.
Yeah. It's not like the good old days where you had to go down to Kinko's and photocopy the thing, bro.
Good old days. I remember when you put like a nickel in a freaking vending machine to get photocopies.
Yeah. Now you go to the website and you get it on a thumb drive and take it down, and they print off like 40 copies of you for you.
Or you just
for like
use you have a full
$12.
printer. You just get the PDF and print off of there. So
Or you do what I did for Morkborg, and you look at their license, and it says you can make whatever you want. So you design your own character sheet, and then put 60 pages of it in a book, and throw it on Amazon and make money off of it every few months.
Yeah.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, so this was the Forbidden
That's
Lands.
actually really smart.
So this is the
Yeah,
Forbidden
I made
Lands.
$25.50 last month.
So it comes with these 2 books here. I think it came with the set of dice, which I took out. It had a few. Of course, it has its map as well. These are just really good.
Oh, and by the way, I think the license is pretty much the same for both those games as it is for Morkborg.
Real quick,
You just have
Jose,
to attribute.
if the terrain is such that you're going to be tempted to or required to like disassemble it, that's the real issue. If you could, get the
That's where the
terrain,
rips come from.
yeah, if you can get the terrain and like maybe even glue it together so it's permanent, then and you have a place to put it, then you stand a chance of it not getting damaged as much. That was one of the problems with Hero Quest, is the terrain didn't really fit in the box when it was assembled, so you were kind of urged to pull it apart, and some of the pieces were like plastic and cardboard fitting inside one another, which invariably caused the coating to peel off and get damaged. So that's why I kind of avoid. There was another game that
I
was
don't
like
know.
that looked really good. Maybe Ben Core Space. It was just like it looked gorgeous, and then I went, "Oh, it's cardboard. Never mind."
Yeah. That's why, like, we live in the era of 3D printing. If you want something like that, just pour a bottle of resin into a vat or
I'm telling
get
you,
a filament printer.
it's but obviously it's not for everybody. Not everybody has the luxury, especially if you're apartment living or something, and you're going to be moving and stuff.
Yeah.
Then terrain becomes a big issue. Because I've seen like some really great books of play mats, like small play mats, room to room, where you could like just fold up your book and throw
Yeah.
it in your backpack and go.
I've been
Uh,
really tempted to design a set that is um, like the four walls and a roof, but they pop off. Like they're
Anytime.
it's a full building, but it's designed to come apart easy
Mhm.
and flat pack. Maybe with like a layer of foam between them because there's some dimensionality. But you know, like because that's like the intended thing.
George.
But
Jose, that's one of the great things about these live streams and shows and stuff. Uh, we're despite what some people might say, we're always out there trying to help people make the most of their fun dollar. Because there's nothing worse than getting something you've been waiting, you've been saving up for it, and then getting it, and then you're like, oh man, there's a big glaring
well,
flaw.
I look at the price of like this core space starter set,
Mhm.
right? It's listed here as $145 Canadian.
Uh-huh.
So it's probably like $120 US or $110, maybe 90 at the lowest end. Uh, at 2 to 3 times the price for me, I'd get a decent 3D printer and a good couple of bottles of resin. So probably not much more the same
Mhm.
for you, and you could learn Tinkercad very easily. It's a browser based uh, hard surface modeler that uses
Always
like
back.
blocks. So you
Yeah,
just like
I hate
build.
that too. That's why Hero Quest, the new version, was actually not only did it all fit, but I actually found this plastic storage box that I was able to put in, take out the
Yeah,
plastic trays or whatever it came with, and get this like you know Rubbermaid whatever box to put all the pieces in it, and it fit in it perfect, and I could
yeah,
fit everything back in it, which was way easier than trying to pry the pieces out of those vacuum form
yeah.
uh, miniature holder trays they make for a lot of these games. It's just like, oh, you
Well,
know. Um,
I'm looking at this and it's like the interior of like a floor of a building or a spaceship, right?
yep.
So it's like Space Hulk with the walls and crap,
Yeah.
but
So,
or like a mall somewhere. But everything's like super flat, right? Because it's on cardboard.
Yes.
You're
so
about to say,
well, I mean, I don't mind some three dimensional, and I understand where you're coming from, but some of it is, especially when you're young, because now we're a bit older for stuff. I'm like, well, I want it to be durable. You just want to open up a damn
yeah,
box and be able to play it. And then the
yeah,
Sure.
assumption some point you'll get a, especially now that we have 3D resin and stuff like that, where you can
Well,
print
that's what I
stuff
was
off. It's
mentioning.
like, it's like, okay, look, I only need it to last long enough, and then I can,
Yeah.
3D
Well,
print something or
like
do that.
if you were to do this, like say one of these wall panels, because they look about 4 inches by 2 inches by a millimeter, so you could
Yeah.
do the same, like the same. I don't know what a millimeter would be in inches. What, a 16th or something stupid like that?
It's like 1/25th. It's
It's super small, right?
Mhm.
You could easily do the 2 millimeters by, or 2 inches by 4 inches, and then just make it like I don't know, a fifth of an inch or something. Like, make it thicker so you get the dimensionality, and that shit at that thick, if you're not going too far in the ink cuts for like obviously I'm saying the outer perimeter would be that thickness, so you have a standard jointing space. Um,
I mean,
would make it so fucking robust that you would have to snap it with pliers or something.
Like try to break it as opposed to accidentally.
Yeah, you
Well, I
might
mean,
chip a corner dropping it, but like
it,
put a chamfer, you won't deal with that problem.
it's an age thing too. You look at it, which is,
Mm.
it's great if you can all play at home. I know that at one point I was looking at 3D terrain and using dental concrete.
Plaster,
Yeah, dental
Yeah.
plaster, Merlin's Magic.
Yeah, the stuff
Yeah.
that's like 18,000 psi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's brutally strong. Except, like if you take a 1 inch tile and try to snap it, forget it. If you drop it, it will shatter, or it
Well, that's
can.
that's
And once you
concrete.
start
Yeah.
gluing it together, like if you're
Yeah.
talking her starts, which I did, oh my god, that stuff's gorgeous, or was for the time. Now everything is better. That stuff is heavier than
Well, that's my point. Is
It's a cinder
taking that-
block. You've got a
Yeah,
cinder
well,
block on
it
your
is.
table.
It is, but my whole point is that's fine if you're doing all your stuff from home. It
Center,
reminds me of
sorry,
how everyone
center
talks about
block.
it's going from the miniatures. It's just like when people talk about the metal miniatures, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't seem like that much until you get a couple of hundred of them, and you're trying to
Well,
bring
yeah.
them to your local store.
if you're dragging 100+ minis to another place to play,
You want them plastic. Trust me. You want the plastic.
it depends. Some stuff yes, some stuff no.
Well, that's why I was mentioning
The bigger the
skinny
thing is, the
minis.
more likely it should be plastic, just because it's going to crush under its own weight. But
No. But like, even if you're having like metal, like the 10 millimeter soldiers or whatever, once you get up to a pound of them, you want plastic because it's distributed more, just because
Yeah.
of volume.
So well, no,
and that makes it feel lighter.
hold on a second.
but-
You guys carry on. I'll be right back.
But I mean, the skinny minis. I don't know if you've ever looked at them. They're
Like
very similar.
flats?
They're plastic. They're basically like plastic standees. So
Okay.
they've got they're clear acrylic, and then they have the image of whatever character or monster you have on them, and you put them on a little stand and you can move them around. And I think those are
Okay.
fantastic.
So there used to be this thing called a flat, and it had dimensionality, but it
Yeah.
was like, say it was like 1/4 scale or whatever. That's fucking the old GI Joes, but still, but it would be a tenth of, like, it would be like that thick. It would be like the normal, like Conan or whatever, but
Yeah.
when you turned it sideways, it would be like a
No,
tenth
these
of what it should have been.
well, these are more like
in thickness.
these are more like cardboard standees, but they're done on
Yes.
clear acrylic. And the great thing
I
about
got that.
those is you can put those into a
A box,
say-
like that's like, you could do that with flats because they were
Yeah.
flat.
yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. What I'm talking about is the same stuff that you have like a folder or a binder. It's like this thick, and you can have hundreds of them. And you're like, okay, well, we're
Like
gonna
a card binder. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You could fit like flats into a card binder too.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't, like, it would just be thicker, right? Because
Sure.
and because they were the way they were, you couldn't really F them up in any way, because
And I went, to me, that is well worth it if for someone that doesn't want to have to paint, because they're already done. like I said, they're just like these cardboard things that are in here.
Yeah. But made of a more durable material.
Exactly. Well, and then you don't worry about if you stick them on and off, because it's like, okay, you might wear off a little bit of the paint at the bottom, but
Or the tab.
Yeah, like who cares? It's plastic. It takes a lot. You're probably going to have to replace the little standee bottoms more than you will the
acrylic piece. But
yeah.
but there's also like people enjoy painting and sculpting. Shadow went to the bathroom, Raven. So if you're trying to get in, wait a moment.
Well, that's a whole different. That's a different hobby aspect. I'm talking from a playing aspect versus a hobby aspect.
Yes.
I like to play more than I like to paint.
Yeah.
And
I kind of agree with you, but like I used to enjoy painting a lot more than I do now.
Well,
I think it's mostly I haven't had like a decent painting set up in a while, so my desk is folded up.
Well, I think that's the real point, is if you have a good place to go off to the side, you have all the things set up, then it's really enjoyable when you can do that. But if you just want to go out and play, then it's like, boom, here you go. It's not one against the other, is what I'm trying to say. Is I think all too often, it's like, I want to play a game. I don't want to have to spend 40 hours before I play the game getting my miniatures prepped. If I want to do the miniatures, I want to do the miniatures because I like doing like you said, the painting aspect. I like doing the hobby aspect, but when I want to play, I want to play. I don't want to have to go buy something and go, oh, okay, that's great. And I have to spend 20 hours getting this ready to play.
Raven, if you want to pop on when Shadow gets back, you don't need to turn your camera on.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we allow Ominow to turn his camera on.
Hey Raven, long time no see.
Yeah, you're allowed to turn it off. Just I'm too hideous.
When we absolutely should restrict him from doing so.
So Jose, you say you do not paint. So when you play BattleTech, don't they all come in like the same uniform kind of color?
No, he's talking about the little standees. I think that's what he's talking about. Or you can get them, or you just don't paint them. I mean, they can all be the same color, but you just don't paint them.
Well, but if both factions are the same color,
you put
know what you can do is, and I have the same for my Conan stuff, is you can do bases that are just different base colors, and then that tells you everything that you're doing. And I'm not against it. It's just in certain cases, like for my amount of time that I have free, like it's cheaper for me to work more hours and pay someone to do the painting than it is for me to do it myself. So it's, and actually, I mean, since I lent off my my airbrush to Brian,
how is Brian?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a while. It's just, if I was going to do my airbrush, then I just paint one base color and one primer color and the other one another primer color and go with.
At that point, you could just rattle can it if you had to.
Yeah, but you know what? The rattle can is actually more expensive than if I have my.
Yeah.
And I don't like wasting as much paint.
Oh, okay. That actually kind of makes some sense.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's probably like those rubber band rings that you could put around the bases that a lot of companies make. So you could just change the faction as well.
Yeah, or and the other thing is, and I don't know how it is with you guys, but when I was a kid, I was the one that had all the pieces and stuff, so I had to provide them if I wanted someone to play the same game. I
was the same way with everything, all the way from Man of War, Space Marines, Epic.
That means they play the army you want them to play.
That's true. If they don't like armies,
if you do not like playing Space Gooses, buy your own fucking miniatures. I am playing Kick-Ass Chad McGee. You're playing Space Goose.
Well, it's the same thing like with role playing games. As much as people talk about this, I don't expect people to buy the book unless they really, really like the system, and then say, "Okay." Now, PDF's a lot easier.
Don't want to play with mechs that are hot pink.
It's light red. It's just bright light red. That's all. I'm sorry, that came. Yeah,
Oh.
Yeah, and that's the way I look at it. And I don't disagree with Max saying it's relaxing.
Don't worry,
if
Shadow.
you have everything over in the corner and you can do it. But
Yeah. Don't worry, Shadow. On your light red mech, we'll put a white line with some powder blue on the other side of it, just for you.
No.
Well, you know what you need to do is you need to paint them white, and then just make sure that the face has these little rosy cheeks. All right. Well, I mean, those are, but yeah, but that's the problem of like about any game. It's like when they talk about Warhammer. Why is Warhammer played? Because you can find people to play with. Doesn't mean it's a great game. It's
momentum. Like it survived the '80s bust cycle, the mid '90s bust cycle, and that's the reason why it's so popular. And it's pretty much the only reason.
Well, it's got really cool lore.
Was it out in the 80s? I thought it came out in the 90s.
Warhammer Fantasy came out in the mid to early 80s, and then Rogue Trader came out in 1987. And at that point, I took the back of the book, and because they had the perforated sheets, I took them out, I photocopied them, and then I put them on cardboard where I stabbed myself, unfortunately. But then I created all the Space Marines and Orcs that way. I was like, oh, because I was used to playing with chits anyway. I was a war gamer, so everything was chits. So I was like, okay, what's the big deal? And then, as they started going more and more into it, it's like, you have to play with miniatures. Why? So, it's like, when you talk about mechs, everyone that has the old BattleTech game remembers the fold up, little standees.
Well, the box set still comes with them. So
exactly. And if you're a poor kid,
now where is my box?
If you're a poor kid, you'll be in good shape. That's the other thing is people forget. It's one thing when you have a lot of disposable income. When you're a kid, you're like, I might have like $100, $200 a year to spend on something.
That's the one thing I really, really hate about the way like Catalyst does it now. And like I was getting ready to get into it like 3 Kickstarters ago before when they fired that one author for being too right wing. I was like, I'm out. But like they don't do individual sales for mechs. They're all in these like
you doing okay?
Squad themed or Lance themed boxes that are like $60 to $80. And it's like I can't just go to the store and drop $5 to $10. Like $10 is reasonable to me for a mech. And you're actually making more because.
So here's the problem that I found when I was talking to the hobby store owner. Is you'd have a bunch of the sprues all up there, and you do each individual one. Well, they would never sell you just one. You had to buy like a certain grouping and a certain number, and so it was hard for them to get certain ones off the shelf. And I don't mind one box or something for it, but
right. But it's completely priced out of the younger generation's affordability.
That's the point.
Yes.
Like some kid can't be like, my friend's got the rule book and I want to play these mechs, so I can take my lunch money this week and go buy a mech and then add it to my game with him and his army, and then the next week buy another one until I have the force I want, and then
where I live, there's no such thing as lunch money anymore.
You know what I mean, though.
There's no money like that at all. Kids don't get money anymore, and even if they did, like it's like $15 for your average action figure. Go figure. Okay, that's completely also priced out of kid range. Kids don't have. They're not given like money like we used to get. Even if they get an allowance, it goes straight onto a game card for their PlayStation or Xbox or something else.
Because it's the only thing they have to spend their money on.
Well,
It's the only thing within a price range that isn't like off of Amazon,
well,
but they don't have a credit
I think it's a
card, so-
combination of that and for the most bang for their buck they're going to get is to dump it back into their phone or their console because that's it's already paid for and they can get something new and now for $20 they got a brand new game that'll keep them busy for a couple of months versus like we did we get $5 to go buy an action figure add to our collection or go buy a
Some-
blister pack of miniatures and add that to
some
our
junk
army.
food.
I'm going to bring up the other part too, which is if the kids are going to get $20 or whatever we're going to go for, what do they want to do? And you got Magic the Gathering, which is a card game. That's really easy.
That's the other one, yeah.
And I'm not against it. It's just like, hey, if you're going to put something down, and again, if you can find a game where other people are playing and you can find other players, that's going to immediately soak it up.
Yep.
Even the Dungeons and Dragons stuff isn't that hard. Now libraries are carrying the books, so
Well,
you can just take those.
When I was in high school, Mage Knight had just come out, right? The first click-based game,
Yeah.
by the same guy who created BattleTech, and those boxes, they were gotcha boxes, and there was like 6 or 7 miniatures in them, and but you never knew what you got in them, and I think they were like $12.50 for the box. Like,
Yeah, they were like more around, depending on the exact set, but they were more like 5 for us. But still, that was something you could,
maybe they were $7.50. I'm pretty sure they were in that range, 7 to 12. But yeah, but still, it's like that was the equivalent of buying 1 or 2 individual characters off the Warhammer shelf or whatever, because they were still pretty like $3 to $5, maybe.
Warhammer has always been more expensive than the equivalent. Yeah, because I remember even when I was we're talking 91.
Those were equivalent prices if you were to pick up Void, because that had come out at the same time. Void, or its fantasy game by Icor, and they were roughly the same prices for an individual miniature. But
it's
they were in price ranges that a kid could spend his lunch money on.
Yeah.
Or save, like, I say lunch money as like,
I know
that's what you say, but it could be allowance, or like, Mom, can I have $20 to buy some cool stuff? And it's like, yeah, sure.
Or hey, you can earn enough money over like 1 or 2 weeks, because I remember doing that every time I got my allowance. I'd walk down to the bookstore and grab a new book or something.
I mowed lawns to make that money. I'd get $2.50, $5 for front and back, and every week I'd be pushing that lawnmower from house to house to see if they wanted me to mow their lawn, and that money would all go to my D&D books or things like that.
You see, if you were smart and saved up and bought a better lawnmower, you'd be making a lot lot more money today.
Well, that was
if you pulled yourself up by your bootstraps.
It was my old man's lawnmower, but guess who used it? Because my dad couldn't walk. So, but yeah, I had to pay for gas, to make sure there was always gas in the tank. But now they don't get lunch money. If they get an allowance, I don't even know. I don't know too many kids that actually get an allowance anymore.
Shadow hanging out at the gymnasium, the change room there, changing your towels, huh? It's a call back to earlier in the show, bro.
You know what though?
eBay has them, and they're really, believe it or not, on eBay the old metal minis are not that expensive. You'd think that they would be, but they're really not. That's one of the lines that they cranked out a ton of, and people just have them still in blisters.
So I'm looking at what they're talking with maps. I was playing. I forgot where it was. It was a city outside Chicago. I can't remember exactly what the name was, but they had the map that was like 6 feet by 5 feet or something like that, and it was laminated. And I mean, there are a lot of stuff that you can do with the laminated maps. Or I also like the one that are neoprene where you can roll them up, and then you just roll them out. And those I like better because they'll actually lay flat.
Yeah, you don't even have to like put something at the ends most of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Jose, your map comment is comment 100 on the video today. Congratulations.
It's
I honestly, I don't even know what I did with. DM James sent me the well, he sent it to Jackie technically. The first BattleTech box set that came out a while ago, and I literally have no idea where it is.
there's the big thing is not that I can do it at work, but if I could, is boy, you get a plotter and you can plot a lot of stuff out there for maps, and so I don't find it
Really? Wow, dude, that sucks.
Oh yeah, they're all nuts about this. It just amazes me just how much import. As much as we can play about our stuff, just in how much other countries have to pay, especially like places like Brazil. And if you look at like you're making a third of what the average American is, and you're paying 2 to 3 times as much as an American would in U.S. dollars. It's just like it's not even equivalent. It's like they're paying like 8 to 10 times more than what we do, equivalently.
It's a byproduct of geopolitical fuckery. Stop destabilizing their governments, Omanow. You specifically, and these poor people won't have these problems.
It's Costa Rica. Costa Rica. The problem with Costa Rica is there are enough Americans that go down there to retire. It jacks up the price.
I don't care. Stop destabilizing their government.
Well,
with your Orion Contra bullshit.
You know what? I have to laugh about Matt.
Ryan Contra, what?
You know what, Matt?
Yeah.
I used to as a child, I used to go outside to do the maps and stuff. We would dig up the yard and we would go build it that way. That's how I used my army men. And my father would yell at us because we'd screw up the lawn so badly because we'd put up like trenches and everything else. It's like, what are you doing? Why have you destroyed this? Here, you go over to the garden and you can play in the garden, but we can't grow anything anyway. But
it's not much of a garden. That's not what a garden is.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Well, that's my point. That's my point. The area is defined as a garden, just nothing grows in it. So.
Yeah, I don't think that's. I think
that's what happens when you fertilize with salt.
Look! Just because we played the Romans versus the Carthaginians and they salted the earth after the Battle of Zama, but no. I mean, a lot of times we say nothing's cheap, and it's like, well, not. What did we do as kids? I remember using pennies as my monsters and nickels.
We didn't even use miniatures playing D&D for the first, 5 years. Easy. It was all theater of the mind.
Yeah.
I prefer.
Once you could afford miniatures, you like hit the big time. It was like a whole new thing. We'd have like miniature painting nights where we just all get together and just paint miniatures and talk about the game we were going to play while we painted miniatures to be ready for the next night or whatever. I miss that. That was actually a lot of fun. That was just as much fun as gaming. Just getting your friends to all show up. Hey, we're just going to paint some minis tonight. All right, cool. Because friends would, one guy would have the paints and the other guys would have a couple of minis for just their characters.
Have you looked at what Sean from Mage's Musings does with his? The Order of the Stick minis. Which
I've been watching him for years.
He prints them out, then he cuts them, and then he folds them over, and then he puts which is stuff that I remember doing as a kid. And you know what? There's a certain charm about that too, because you don't mind something that dies.
Fly with my groups. They're a little more serious than that. I mean,
that's not serious. That's being pretentious.
Hey, Justin, would you play with those? Because I would.
Well, it depends.
Yeah.
If I was playing with anyone but you, yes. But with you, no. Just out of spite.
Oh well,
okay, I'm that kind of person.
I know.
And you're bald.
That's crazy. But that's also nice that you have a wife that's into it.
Yeah.
So that's actually a rare thing out there.
And again, I to me, if you have physical minis, you were at that like next level. Because as a kid, I remember using marbles, and then you know what we did for the dungeon if we were going to do it is I remember going to the sandbox. And there was a big sandbox. It was like 120 by 120 feet where we had. So we'd like take off a corner, and I would literally dig a room out whenever they would go to the next room. It was like okay, this is the room, and then we'd use like a bigger marble or different color marbles, like a minotaur. That's it.
That is kind of genius, though, dude. Of all the stories I've heard, that especially from you, that's one of my favorites. If we had thought of that, we would,
Especially from you, Omanel. Especially.
especially if you could have brought your minis down there, even just a handful of minis, but dig the trench, for the hallways, etc. That sounds kind of awesome.
Well, like I said, we
especially
use
playing
marbles
outdoors.
for that, just because it's funny because if I had the little army soldiers that were 1/72nd,
Yeah, airfix.
you did those, but actually that took you more out of the game than using something more abstract. Because if I said it was a minotaur, instead, we put down like a tank, it took you out of it. It's like hearing someone say that they're playing a woman, then you hear a deep voice. Hey, it's like, wait a minute.
So I have the screen reader because my dyslexia when I get tired and stuff, and the browser one, the default voice I was using broke or something. They updated it, so I went through and they have like these new Microsoft voices, and now I've got this really like this woman, and she's got like that super sultry voice. So I was just like reading something that's from a male perspective, and it's like, oh,
well, see, I played
one time. It's freaking me out, man. I gotta go through the options and find something more neutral.
Well, no,
robotic. Nice robotic one before.
I was playing Numenera, and the guy was playing a female character, but he was a voice actor, and his voice was so deep. I'm like, dude, I can't even imagine what your character looks like. I just, but yeah.
Oh, dude, that's buddy.
Oof, ouch. Yeah, man.
It's heartbreaking.
I guess what I'm saying is we act like we have to get the really high end stuff. The reality of it is we never did. We just like it because we can afford it now, and it looks a lot better. Yeah. So, and like Jose's there saying is if you're doing it as a collector, especially have fond memories, and if you enjoy, I know a lot of people find it very relaxing to paint. I'm like, good for you. Do something to push the rest of the world out. It allows you to focus on doing one thing and doing it well. I will say as much as I have, I think one or two of the Privateer Press giant resin trolls that they have that they're like 6 or 8 inches tall, and
this would be super easy to paint.
Well, that's my point. Those would be really nice, but I have to have some place to really put them up. So, but those are really cool. I don't if I want to do something for a smaller miniature for actual gameplay because it allows you to put up bigger maps. But for painting, I understand why everyone like 28 millimeter or 38.2 or what's the new size for it's 45 or 54.
I've been looking at these Spell Crow Agatoria range, Agatoria, something like that. It's 10 millimeter.
Okay.
10 millimeter, and they're all hand sculpted, and I think we looked at them one night. Remember, Shadow? They're all resin.
I'm still bummed out about what Jose said.
Yeah, it's terrible.
For us, it probably seems way worse the way you put it. And since you're there every day, kind of thing, it's probably not as bad as it sounds. Maybe I hope, but I can't imagine. what that must be like. My brain always goes to the worst place, so I'm thinking, just if you're cool, then as long as you guys are happy, that's what matters.
I'm what was Dropship? I think was a true 6 millimeter game. I think, and everything actually fit into each other. Like there was a cargo carrier, it actually carry everything for the 6 millimeter, not the
Yeah.
the weird stuff.
The drop ship commander or drop troop commander
Yeah,
or whatever.
Oh
that
yeah, I wanted to get into both those games, mostly because they were Richard Borg games, were they not? And he's the designer of Siege of the Citadel, which was a fun game, and the Kickstarter that we got was freaking out of this world. I wish Jackie and I had the time to go back and play some of that.
You knew the company was going under because they had like a good 10-year run, but they were going under when they sold the one that made Dropship.
Oh yeah, well I think
uh,
he passed away as well.
Yeah.
oh really?
When they were selling, they had this like display ship that they would put into the back of a U-Haul or whatever and take to cons, and it'd be there. And it was one of the ships from Dropship before they released that game. So it was like
Yeah.
the first ship that they actually made, and it was to scale for drop
Yeah.
like because they could take the tanks because they would drop them
Mhm.
from orbit and they'd land and
Uh,
slide them into. There was like 1,200 of them glued onto the side of the ship.
Yeah.
And it was in scale, and the whole thing was like maybe
that sounds like a blast.
10 feet long. It was like a door, like if you took the standard room door, like the cardboard ones we all have, the hollow core ones, if you put it on the side, that's how long it was, and
I
about
mean,
that wide.
it was. I mean, I saw the other ships, and they looked real delicate. Was part of it, so it was probably made it hard to travel with them. But I remember going
Yeah.
to a local game shop, and they had, which was funny because more of the game shops I see nowadays, they have about 3/4 of the space for playing, and about a quarter of it actually we can sell stuff. Um, or you know what I mean, where they have the miniatures and everything else.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's the game store when I was like in high school, early
Yeah.
2000s, late 90s. It was like that, a quarter for retail, and the rest was game space. They had a whole painting table, so you could just sit there and paint
Yep.
your miniatures.
Yeah, they had
And
the
there was a nook. There was a nook with a couch, like an L-shaped couch with the table for the the cheap, like 50-cent magic cards or whatever. There'd be like long boxes, and you just
oh yeah.
sort through whatever you want.
And that's what I've heard from a lot of stores is that's how they survive is by piecemealing the magic stuff. And I don't know, I live near a military base, so they usually have a lot of guys that play stuff with that. But I just don't feel like driving 30-35 minutes to go to a game store.
You
Uh,
hear that, Shadow? If you want Omen now to go to your game store, you need to move in next to him.
I remember as a youngster, I would ride my bike sometimes an hour to get to my game store and only be there a half hour and ride back and considered the whole journey well worth it.
Well,
And as I
it's
got
different
older,
when you're 12 than
to 12 through a little bit older, then we would drive to the same shop that's still there today. Mind
yeah.
you,
That's awesome.
Brookhurst Hobbies in Orange County, California. I went there from the time I was about 12 with my old man, and he couldn't get in the store because it was so cramped and whatnot, to well into my mid 20s. Then when I moved out of that area, I still keep hearing about them online and stuff. Uh, so I know it can be done.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
like what Bruce is the game store that he goes, the one that we talked about in San Antonio.
yeah.
They probably survive more off of food. because they have enough. I mean, about half of it is space to play, and the other half has games. But then they have a kitchen in the back, and so then people just buy. They're like, hey, you can't bring your own food and drink, but you can buy it from us, and that seems to work out pretty well.
Well, even if you don't have that policy, like have the vending machine section at the very least, right? Vending machines,
Oh, yeah.
12, 1200,
Oh,
2000.
Well,
They're not
the real
that
point
expensive, but
the real point is you're not making the money off the games. You have to make money off of all the ancillary stuff that comes with it.
Absolutely. From all the places I've worked, I've watched a good number of them go under, and the ones that have stayed up, and the differences, and the differences in the way the whole, the whole sphere, the whole hobby has changed. Uh, yeah.
well, that's why I suggest to you, if you've got the cash, look for a strip mall that's going under, because you'll make more money on the retail than you will
Sure.
on the real estate than you will on
I-
the business of preference. Like treat the business like a lifestyle, and the rest is the business, right?
Well, I mean, like you said, if you can sell off shirts and all the other stuff there, then the other part is, and why people don't do this, I don't know, is because there used to be a place called Harvey Wallbangers where you could go, where there was a restaurant next to a laundromat. So if you could put a laundromat, because people will stay there for hours to do their laundry anyway, and that's a really good place for young people to go, because like, well, what am I going to do while the laundry's being done? Oh, I'll go play the games next door, and then if you're also selling some food there, then they don't ever feel like they have to leave.
Yeah, basically you build a little ecosystem of not going anywhere.
Yeah. Except to your place, because they all want to come there because that's what they enjoy, and
if you got one really long, small plot of space, you just put arcade games down one side and arcade games down the other side.
I was looking
and
into
another coin
arcades.
dispenser.
I was looking into that, and it's just not worth it. They're too expensive. The maintenance, the upkeep, etc. You just won't make the money with today's youth.
It's the same line as the laundromat, right? It's for people going there because they want to go there. No, you're not. People going there because they don't want to sit there staring at the washing machine. You'll make the money.
Well, that was the whole point. If you do several different things, and I went to one place which they were doing a D&D game, but it was too loud for exactly the reasons you're talking about, which was a bar that had video games, and they were also doing role playing, but it was too loud for me to focus on the role playing. I said, I can't do this. But it was off
isolated rooms. It's a different matter, but
isolated rooms. The other thing is you just pay a cover charge, and then you let them play as many video games as they want.
Well said, Jose.
So that's what it comes down to. Is
it'd be like trying to play D&D in a bowling alley.
But if you have a little side room off the side, and if you look at how many strip malls are almost completely empty, I mean, you could probably lease that. If you could get 3 different rooms, I saw one of them. They were talking to me, and then, of course, this was in a small town. Like, hey, you can buy this building for $60,000. Like, well, okay, what would I have to do to upgrade it and everything else?
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of other things, that you've got to get. You've got to get, tables, chairs, racks, display cases, registers, all that other crap.
Well, some of it's easier than you think, because if a business goes out of business, hey, I'll go buy your chairs. Hey, I'll go buy some of your tables, for especially restaurants. And then the other one that you can start going for is
the
register
shop. Anyways.
Nowadays they have.
I've got an early morning tomorrow.
Yep.
My dentist appointment's at 8 a.m., which means I got to be up at 6:30 to get there. And, it's just.
I agree. It's hard to get that initially, but what was it? Did you ever watch Investment Joy and the stuff that he was doing?
Never heard of it.
No.
He was showing on what he was doing for his laundromat, and then and it was 2 stories. The second story had an apartment, so he was renting that out. And he was showing that he was coming out ahead every month. He was saying how much he was making, after he was, after the mortgage and everything else. So
you have to find a place that's a dual purpose, though. I wouldn't directly look for that, but like definitely, if you have the ability to find a place like that.
Yeah, that was the dream, was to find a storefront that had living space above.
Yeah.
That way,
Well,
I'm always there, and I can have the weirdest hours I want. When it comes to keeping the place open, because that's one of the things that I noticed with some of the more successful game stores is they would have their gaming room open, till the wee hours if possible.
Well, even if you found like I was suggesting, I don't know about living space, but you could have like the retail space technically a separate storefront from the game space,
Mhm.
so you don't have to worry about the game hall getting like being emptied out when the retail space is closing.
Yeah.
You can lock up the
all you have to do
store.
is get a door that you
Yes.
just
Yeah,
close and lock.
but if the game hall is like 24 hours with some like punk kid making sure there's like someone there to call the cops if a fight breaks out or some shit like that, or taking the cover charge, which pays his fucking salary or whatever. You know.
Well, the other part you can look at is make sure it's a gas station. Except there's, especially in small towns, that's like everything. It's the grocery store, it's the
Well,
restaurant, it's the gas station.
you get into like more permitting things if you do that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, this is why it's the little country store. It gets worse
Yeah.
to get in the bigger city. A lot of stuff that's out in the county, they're just like, okay, fine. Does the health inspector come in and look? Yeah, okay, it looks healthy. You're fine, and then they don't care after that.
Well, that's what they say. You learn more from losing than winning.
Yeah.
And if you're always winning, which I found with when I was playing Epic Space Marines, I won every game I played. I mean, literally every game I ever played, and that killed it with the people I was playing and myself after a while, because it's like, you know, this is no fun. I'm just stomping your army. Mind you, part of that was because if you didn't invest in metal versus plastic, if you guys know what I'm talking about, then your army was just infantry, and of course my artillery is just going to, stop you before you ever get anywhere near me. You got to have a mix. But my players learned to eventually, you know, buy some tanks, but by then it was kind of too late.
Yeah.
Well, I like the Adeptus Titanicus when it was the small one, which again came down to that plastic and cardboard for the buildings. But it was a game that you could pick up as a kid and get one or two friends.
Well,
and
the
you could
initial
play
buy-in was
immediately.
like $50 from what I recall. So that was
I don't doubt that. Yeah, but again, if you can play immediately, that's very different than if someone else has to buy an army.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
Then you have
It came
to buy
with
an army.
like 6 mechs, and you're good to go.
And the Adeptus Titanicus, you could pull the weapon off and put a different weapon on. So it's like,
I still have a dozen of those,
and have
at least.
And that's what I'm referring to. Is it's not so much that is we all talk about how expensive something is, but a lot of times a kid can get something for Christmas or their birthday that's out of their price range initially, but you want to be able to open up the box and play almost immediately. Not we have to spend another 20 hours to get it.
That's what I mean. Like, there's also got to be a path to piecemealing, because that kid gets that and can play with his friends, but then the other kid didn't get that, but he can spend like a couple of bucks here or there and start assembling a force over a couple of months, while still playing with his friend's army in the meanwhile, right?
Or even if he says, "Hey, I buy," like you said, if you can buy another unit off
Yeah.
the side or something. But as a kid, I'll be honest, as a kid, I didn't care if someone wanted to proxy stuff.
Yeah.
This whole idea that you have to do what you see is what you get is a tournament mentality,
Well,
and I hate that.
it is
if
nice,
I go out,
right? It
if I
is
go out
nice,
to
and
the,
also, you then you own your own army that you built up slowly that you wouldn't have gotten into or been
Yep.
interested in if your friend didn't get that thing for Christmas in the first place.
yeah.
True.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that the what you see, what you get attitude, where it's where it becomes real cutthroat. I'm like, I'm not trying to do a tournament.
Yeah.
I understand if it's tournament rules, but let's not do tournament rules on a beer and pretzels game that's poorly balanced.
Yeah.
Right, especially with really good friends.
Yeah.
You're trying to have
Yeah.
some fun, not like get into a fight.
Well, and then you don't want someone like, haha, you don't have the money, so you can't do this. And you're like,
well,
all right, I'm just
which
not
is
going
a
to play
lot
that.
of lot of the problem with pricing things in such a manner that there is no like secondary cheaper route to obtain the same thing, right?
Well, that's why Space Hulk did so well. The miniatures were really good. Actually, they got mad because I think that people realized they could buy cheaper Terminators if they went through that. But the point is that it was snap fit. The miniatures were really high quality for the one that I bought like 10 years ago. They were super high quality. And you had the cardboard, and it's like, okay, guess what? You can play within 2 hours or so after you assemble all the stuff with the snap fit and shit. It's like, okay, we're going to play. Boom, done.
That's the thing. Like, they did that,
a lot of time.
and they realized that if they released the models like that, they could make more money because they could sell more. And they released, what was it, 7th or 8th edition? Everything was snap fit, and
they've had snap fit for
this
years.
Was like
to be fair,
a few generations. It was the one where they changed the chaos to be all like twice the size. And it had the bloat drone. They looked nicer.
Well,
but like that was part of like bringing the cost down. But then they immediately then started doing the price structure shenanigans instead of. I really seriously think the reason why they brought those snap fits into the main line was because they saw the Terminators were being sold that way, and there was like an attempt to bring the price down to move more units, but then like somebody put their hand in their pocket and demanded more money.
I looked at it years ago. Well, this was years ago, and this is when they were all talking about the price increase for Games Workshop kept going up and up and up. Was they actually were They were actually losing player base, but they were making it up in volume. Not in volume, but they're making it up in unit cost. So they upped their margins because they said we'd rather sell to less people and just make a higher.
It's a cannibalistic attitude, though.
Because you have to have the player base large enough to support it. Well, it's not dumb. It's not dumb, but you have to have a player base large enough to support it. And if the player base shrinks too much, then guess what? You don't get it. And that it's the same reason that every edition they validate huge numbers of models. And I'm like, okay, this is why I don't play.
There's that.
To give you an example, though, my local Games Workshop store closed a year ago because the guy who was running the store was just getting tired of a lot of the things that he didn't like about the shop. So he quit, opened up his own shop a couple of miles away. That same store is still there.
Vacant.
Not been opened one day, and the boxes are just sitting inside that building for 6-9 months now with nobody coming in or out.
Well, you know what?
They can't even get anybody to clear the building out, but they're still tied into their lease.
Well,
they're still happily paying the rent. I'm guessing.
You know what though? It's in many cases they do it as a write-off and for insurance. And this is why like Amazon won't take stuff back, is because they've already gotten paid by the insurance not to touch it. And
you
that's
Shadow,
there's some
you
weird
Shadow
things that
need
go on with stuff like
to go down the street and find two guys named Tyrone and Tyron, and get yourself a ski mask, and have them boost a truck from someone, because they know how to do that, and go
and then put a noose around your neck and say this is
no,
mega country.
and then go down to that store, which we don't know the name of because the feds are watching. Thank you, Omanow. and just kind of tap the glass on that window and start loading those trucks into
Actually,
the boosted van, and then drive to not your house, but a third location.
Justin,
He's got this all worked out.
Justin, he doesn't even have to do
done
that.
before.
No, Justin, he doesn't even have to do that. What he needs to do is find the owner of the lease. Go to him and say, "Hey, look, man, I see that this place is full of stuff. I'll come in and clean it out for you for free."
No.
And
Don't
probably
say
let you-
free. Say, I will come in and clean it out for you for $200.
Exactly.
That will
That's-
pay
you're
for
right.
the legitimate U-Haul, and you don't even have to cut the profits with Tyrone and Tyrone.
Exactly. It's no, but I'm being honest. There was a lot of these places is you could probably call the person who owns the lease, because they've abandoned all that material. They've probably abandoned and say, "Hey, I'll clear this out for $200 for you," and they're like, "Okay, sure, get rid of it."
I don't know, man. It just
It's the same thing that they do with like
dumb.
For them, you should at least try it, and then get your GoPro and film getting all that free Warhammer stuff for free.
Yeah. Well, remember, you're trying to think. You remember Dreadfleet? They overprinted Dreadfleet, and they refused to sell it at on sale because they said it was a premium product. So they destroyed. I do too, but I'm saying, Dreadfleet, they destroyed thousands of copies rather than put it on sale.
That's evil.
I bought my copy for $60.
That's
nice, Jose. I gave my 3.75 to my son. He took perfect care of it, and hopefully it'll be around along with his Micronauts for his kids someday.
So, but no, shut up. We were joking about it. Guess what? You have your son off for the summer. Just tell him, "Hey, son, we're going to go clean out different buildings and just walk. Find out who's on the lease." You know what? You should be able to go look at the property. I know you've done stuff like this. You find out who owns it. You call them up and say, "Hey, I see that you have this business that's abandoned. We're willing to clean it out for $200."
And if they offer you a lower price,
that's fine.
Accept it.
I'm guessing. I don't know.
A bit first.
They're probably still under lease, though. That's the thing.
What's the worst?
How do you know
they tell you that when you call them? They say no.
Yeah,
you say okay and hang up.
Well, what makes you think that they're still
because
under
they're still
lease?
paying for the because no one's done it. It's been like that for. I mean, the lease is still being paid.
You don't know that.
How do you know?
Seriously,
you don't know because
if no one has placed interest in the property, they don't do anything. The only time you will see property get changed when it's sitting waiting for potential clients is if the leaseholder is sold to another company and they're trying to justify their purchases by sprucing up unrented properties.
Yeah, the amount of property that's just sitting there, probably vacant.
I'll put it to you
the other
this
part
way.
is
there was a Toronto Dominion TD Bank that closed just before COVID, and that property stayed empty because COVID. But the only time it looked like anybody touched it was when the name of the property holding company changed. They would throw up a coat of paint on the brick. That's it. For 5 years.
And the same thing happens with because if they're going to lease it, and leasing, I've heard that retail market has really crashed.
That's
then,
why
it's
that's
like,
why I
look, unless
recommended
they're
Shadow look at strip malls instead of single places, because they were
Yeah.
a lot cheaper when he first mentioned getting a store, and it had redundancy business opportunities in case the game shop failed.
Well, if you want to
Yeah.
expand off to the side, usually you can rent the space next to it.
But if you own the space
yeah,
next
it's-
to it, you don't
but
have to
Shadow-
rent it. You just have to not renew the lease of the person renting it.
Yeah. So, but Shadow, all you have to do is go talk to him and say, "Hey, I see that this business is closed. We're willing to come in and clean it for $200
which is
bucks
probably a
for
lot
you."
less than the like 1,500 they would be spending when they got somebody interested in the property. Because that's the thing, is they don't spend that money until they think they're going to make money, because it's it's red ink on the ledger until there's the potentiality. But if you're
It's
shoot.
Because Games Workshop is probably not. After a certain point, they write it all off and they get insurance on it, and that's probably what's happening there. Otherwise, they would have come in and collected it. But guess what? You could get thousands of dollars worth of stuff if you do.
You don't have to look into
it for free. You might actually get paid for it, and say, "Hey, boy, guess what you're doing this week? You're helping your dad clean out some business."
You
legally.
You go over and look at the phone number. You could probably do it from Google.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally just look at the Street View
Jose.
map and then call the number and ask them if they need services to clean it out. If they tell you they already have somebody, you just say, are they more than $200? And if they say no,
it's like,
then
hey,
you say, well, what offer can they go? Because
it's however you want to do it. It said, "Hey, I'm willing to do it for $500 to clean this whole thing out." And they're just like, "Okay, that's fine. We'll have an empty building ready to go." Now we just have to pay someone else to paint the inside.
And then you have a good Mexican that needs to learn how to paint walls.
He has one.
That's what I'm saying. He has one. He needs to learn how to paint walls. So then you upsell them after emptying the property. What's the worst? You're going to spend money on a push broom for entering the property? You probably have one of those already.
I mean, Shadow is no. I mean, we're half joking, but you should be able to go to the county appraiser, and it should have the owner of the property.
No,
LLC or whatever it is.
There's probably a sign in the window says property for lease.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
have that
exactly.
Yet.
That's true. Yeah, if you see property
have that, then look up,
double check, give them a
Google who owns.
Look up the lease.
Who owns X Street number 23, and he'll tell you.
I know how to do that.
Yeah,
I'm actually gonna. Actually, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start by calling the actual phone number of the store to make sure I'm not just when I go by they just happen to be closed. Make sure because I could be wrong and they could still be in business. In which case I'm wasting my time. But from what I understand, probably that's like a 50-50 chance at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Hey man, 50-50, and how many thousands of dollars worth
there's
of
probably at
miniatures
least
be in there?
10,000, including the tables, the couple of glass cases, the register, the painted miniatures, and all the other merchandise, and God knows what's in the back room.
Okay, so the display cases, the long glass display cases.
No, there's a couple of stand-up tall.
But the counter ones, right?
They don't
have one of those. Okay, because my grandfather had two of those when he died, and we sold them for $500 a piece.
Yeah, I wish there were those in there.
They were like right out of a store because he got them from a pharmacy that was closing.
No, it's a very minimalistic design. But there's some tables for one table for painting, a couple of little mini 4x4s for gaming, and I know there's back room, and I'm guessing that back room is just floor to ceiling boxes of unopened, pieces.
Or it's terrain that's already been painted so they can use it.
No, no,
Then you have
there's
to do
like
even
no.
less work.
The terrain that's on the table is all
Oh, they
they
don't have
have
that.
for sample, quick games. You know, very minimalistic everything.
This was an actual GW.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
no, they wouldn't have had a lot of that stuff.
a
GW.
little bit that they have on display in these two microscopic glass cases is like, why even bother? The boxes, the artwork on the box shows you more than the little bit of display pieces that they have. I'm guessing it's because the guy who was running the shop, those were his pieces. It just never cleared them out or didn't care anymore. He's running his own shop, which is almost identical to the GW, with less merchandise, and he's still making hand over fist. I don't know how, but
Yeah.
Well, it probably those miniatures were, yeah, like I said, is worse it happens. You find out that it's been abandoned. We just haven't put it up for sale until whatever. But GW, by my understanding, has been closing a lot of their stores anyway. So if they're not paying the lease, then technically they've abandoned that
it's
after
been
90
way over
days.
that. That's
or
why I
whatever
have
it
to
is.
assume that I'm probably just not seeing it open because of the days I go there.
Yeah. Well.
Okay. Well, I'm saying, but otherwise, remember that they write that stuff off as
Sure.
a business loss, and then they get insurance on it. So, sometimes they'll do that because they'll make more money that way.
It's cheaper to write it off at a 50 or 90% loss than it is to hire some moving company to go pick it up, because there's a lot more than just hiring the moving company and the cost of doing that. Even if it's just relocating it to the next town over, right?
Yeah, that's basically all it is. Good for you, Jose. Good for you. We actually, some of us are pretty big fans of some of the stuff that can be done with AI, but I'm actually going to shut her down now because I got stuff for tomorrow to get all my ducks in a row and make sure I don't miss this appointment. Even though it's just a consult, I still got to be there bright and squirrely.
Okay. Now, Omanel, you are going to be in the game tomorrow night, right? Shadow was wondering.
Saturday night.
Saturday night?
Yes,
Saturday night.
Saturday night. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
So I was double checking.
Yeah, it's only Thursday.
My schedule's all fucked up now. Shadow's telling me no show tomorrow. He's got to go to the dentist or something. So I'm just reducing that time to nothing in my mind, right? So
that's fine. No, I'll be there, man. It was a lot of fun, and I'm not just saying that. It was because it was all tongue in cheek and everything. Were you able to look at Morkboard?
Yeah. I skimmed through it. I will more in depth look at it when I'm done here with this scenario.
Yeah. Like I said, I support it because I kind of like the artwork from the.
I'm really upset you didn't roll a 4 when Raven almost died. I wanted the blood. Okay. Well.
I will see you guys Saturday then, because I will be completely. Well, I'm going to make a video tomorrow, but it'll just be a video, so you'll see me. I won't see you guys. Have a great weekend, everybody. Jose, thanks for stopping by. You're welcome here anytime. Like I said over on DM James's show, I'm glad you finally got to hang out with us. One of these days you'll have to come join us like you do with DM James, because I know you'll fit right in with us as long as you're how we are.
You're wearing your pants.
Well, not just that. No, I mean, some of the conversations we have are, pretty adult, and we go all over the place. But everybody else out there who watches this later, thanks for doing so. I really appreciate it. When people watch these shows after they're no longer live, that blows me away. That people still want to come in and listen to us and hear what we have to say. Thank you guys again. I will see you guys when I see you. As always, happy trails.
Omanal, you need to put spikes on the head of your mace and